New York Times, U.S. conducts retaliatory strikes in Iraq and Syria against Iranian proxies. What does it say here? The U.S. on Friday carried out a series of military strikes against Iran-backed militants in 6 sites. New York Times says 6 sites were attacked. Says half a dozen sites in Iraq and Syria were hit by U.S. I'm just posting this.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Let me get back on.
So the New York Times is reporting that the U.S. carried out a series of military strikes against Iran-backed militants in half a dozen sites.
All right, get it on the air. Breaking news, breaking news. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Breaking News. It looks like U.S. airstrikes have started over Iraq and Syria, but not Iran. Fortunately, we have a knucklehead. Let's go, Brandon. Joe Biden doesn't want to talk Iran, take on Iran because Joe Biden is afraid of Iran. So we're doing it with the prick shots. This is Fox News confirming that there were airstrikes, but as far as that information is concerning, it looks like it's Tomahawk cruise missiles, might be some F-18 Hornets, might be F-35s. And guys, thank you for coming in tonight, this afternoon. I had a discussion with a friend of mine that took me to pay my groceries. I won't tell his name, but he works for the government when it comes to F-35. He didn't need maintenance. He has a team that goes out there and fix them. So basically, he might be on call this weekend. So we had a good discussion about that. Sorry about that. So it is 1:01 in the morning in Iraq. And like I said last night, if this is the confirmed, United States like to attack at night, darkness. So basically, my suggestion it might be, the butterflies are in the house. Good afternoon, my brother. Yes, yes, yes. Today is the day. Fox News has confirmed that airstrikes have begun in Iraq and Syria, not Iran. Unfortunately, we have a knucklehead in chief. Let's go, Brandon. So a lot of things to talk about real quickly before I put the other guy back on. Well, let's go, Brandon. Joe Biden met in Dover, Delaware. It was pre-tape. It wasn't live because, the major news network don't want to catch him making a mistake. So it wasn't live. It was pre-tape for meeting the conference of the 3 brave Americans. It was him, his old lady, and the defense secretary was there. I think out of the hospital. He looks way too weak to be a defense secretary. But it wasn't live. It was free tape. So it looks like it has begun. This with a handpricks. Nothing's going to happen. We're going to find out how long it's going to be. Let me go back to the guy. Agenda free. He's pretty good with the stuff. Let's see what he has to say. Once again, it is 103. There we go.
Defense official adds. That is the Washington Post saying at least 8 locations attacked. New York Times says half a dozen locations struck. Thanks, by the way, to Stephen Reed, Uncle Toot, for your support. Also, Janet Burnett, thank you. Corwin, 719 Frequency, Johnny Hash, Abdul Karim Saleh, Joe, Kerry Poteet, and Leslie Lamana, thank you for your support. And also, real quick, thanks so much to James Carlberg for your support. Thanks, James. We are bringing you live coverage here of the strikes, retaliatory strikes on Iraq and Syria, retaliating to, hold on, B-1 bombers involved in the strike per DOD official. Lara Seligman, who is with Politico, has a new comment from a DOD official, B-1 bombers involved in the strike. I'm going to change reports because we have so many reports now. I am confident in just saying,
All right.
that. Give me one moment here.
While he's doing that, he's taking some information. Difference between a B-1 bomber and a B-2 bomber. B-1 bomber was made in the 70s and 80s. It is not a stealth bomber. It was a bomber that was supposed to replace a B-52 bomber. This bomber, he's saying B-1 bomber, is supersonic. It's Mr. Badass. Sorry about that, but yes. Made in the 80s, so they're using a latest B-1 bomber. It's like 40 years old. I remember when they first put out the B-1 bomber, 1980, I think it's 81 with Reagan. Unfortunately, we had a Democrat Carter. He canceled the program. Reagan said, not today. So we'll see if he's still looking. But yeah, that is the breaking news. B-1 bombers are apparently going out of England, and B-2 bombers are basically stationed in St. Louis, Missouri, Air Force Base. So we go back and see what he has to say. This is good. It's going to be good. Okay. So he's still checking. We'll go ahead. Yeah. Bud Files, thank you for coming in. Kuznuts, thank you for coming in. Guys, don't forget to hit Nightbot. Hit that link.
Update the title.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Thanks for your patience, guys.
Here we go. I think he's ready. Well, while he's doing that, check out.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Let's get you the latest
here we go.
updates here. So B-1 bombers involved in the strike. CENTCOM statement, breaking news. Breaking news. CENTCOM statement, breaking news. Breaking news.
All right,
here's the statement from CENTCOM. At 4 p.m. Eastern Time, February 2nd, U.S. Central Command forces conducted airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps Force, Quds Force, and affiliated militia groups.
Ooh.
U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets
Ooh.
with numerous aircraft, to include long-range bombers flown from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operations, centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned air vehicle storages and logistics and munitions supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces. Wow, there you go. Big statement from CENTCOM.
All right, let me go ahead and break it down. Give me a second. I'm going to pause him for just a second. I'm going to pause him for just a second. And once again, this is breaking news. CENTCOM is the military areas for the Middle East. I think their bases are in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and Saudi. This is breaking news for CENTCOM. This is the military outpost in the Middle East saying breaking news that bombers leaving from the United States hit targets in Iranian natural Iranian special forces. So it might be, yeah, it might be Iran. Yeah. So basically, what is going on is it takes at least 15 to 16 hours to get a bomber force from the United States into the Middle East. So that's a nonstop flight. More likely, it is B-1 bombers. Might be B-2. I know the B-2 Bottom Squadron is in St. Louis, Missouri. B-1 bombers could be anywhere in the United States. That's some breaking news. Wow. We're going to go back to him for just a second. I just want to let you know it's going to be a long night. And I forgot to get my drinking. So we might have to deal with Kool-Aid. Cruz Nuts in the house. Yes, Cruz Nuts. How you doing, bro? Yes, I will be home tomorrow. I'll be home tomorrow. My phone will be right next to me tomorrow morning. So what we discuss is a go. So I'll be here. I might have to order some drinkies. Okay, when we go back to him, it is now 1:11:45 in the morning in Iran, Syria. Okay, we'll go back to him. He got better news. Go ahead and find Sky Network. I'll go ahead and do that first. Hopefully we can get some pictures.
Again, it seemed from the...
All right.
The IRGC.
Come on.
I mean, unless there's people places, but people might have cleared out of all these areas. So yeah. There might have been people hit. But it doesn't specifically say that they were like targeting the forces. Two True says sounds like a facility strike.
Okay. All right, let me go ahead and while he's doing that.
Okay.
There we go.
Guys, this is from the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is they're a UK-based group that reports on stuff going on in Syria. They claim 10 members of Iranian militias killed and injured under airstrikes in Deir ez-Zor, Syria. Now, I don't know if these were this part of the strikes carried out by the U.S. 6 members of Iranian militias, at least 3 of which are non-Syrian members, were killed and 4 others were injured under anonymous airstrikes in Syria. Moreover, anonymous warplanes targeted. This looks like maybe the U.S. strikes.
All right.
The warplanes carried out 4 rounds of airstrikes on positions of Iranian militias in Deir ez-Zor, 3 of which took place in Al-Mayadeen and 1 in Al-Bokamal, while the scout and surveillance planes are still flying over the region. So again, this is from this. It's a well-respected group that reports on Syria. They're saying that 10 people, 10 members of Iranian militias were killed and injured in some strikes in Syria. And they also say that scout and surveillance planes are still flying over the region. By the way, I'm assuming you can't see any of these like fighter aircraft or scout aircraft on flight radar. I'll do a quick check here, but I'm going to assume that we're not going to be seeing
22
these U.S.
free service
aircraft, the sensitive ones, on flight radar.
All right, let's see here. We'll go back over here.
Here's Syria right here. There's no aircraft on flight radar 24. That's not one. That's just a civilian craft.
Okay.
So you're not really seeing
it. It looks like about 11 to 12 units now. Okay, cool.
I mean, there's some aircraft over Iraq, but I'll keep an eye out. But again, I'm also looking at what the most tracked is, and none of the most tracked. It's not like a lot of people are tracking anything over there. No.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so let me go ahead and do this. Wait for him.
Anyways, if I hear,
I know I'm also with the center of the military aircraft. So they're using KC-135s. Those are the refueling tankers aircraft in the Middle East. They're probably at over the Mediterranean, and they refueled all our fighters, all our bombers, especially the B-1 bomber. They flew that from the United States. They need to refuel at least twice from leaving from the United States and go to the Middle East. They need to refuel twice. So it's like a mid-air refueling. Obviously, if they say the B-1 bomber is not real secret stuff, the B-2 is the stealth bomber. I know for a fact the squadron of B-2s are in St. Louis, Missouri, so they got to do that flight. That's like a 16 or 17. That's why it probably took a while. It takes at least 16 or 17 hours to fly all the way out there. From the Middle East. Yes. Let me see here. We got we're going to try Sky News. See, we got people in Europe. Let me go ahead and do this. Let's see.
Joe Biden. He's got to do lots of different things at the same time. He wants to deter the Iranians. He wants to degrade the abilities of these militias here in Iraq to strike at U.S. bases and installations. And they've been doing that since the middle of October. By our calculations, over 170 strikes at U.S. targets since the middle of October. So it didn't just start at Tower.
Okay, now this guy from Sky News, he's in that head. He said the United States has struck 170 times. No, it was the terrorists that struck our interests 170 times. See, sometimes British, they're not as intelligent. Great Britain. But this guy neighborhood, let me see here. We'll go ahead and do this.
He has to balance these interests really carefully. It's a very difficult job. With every strike, with every target, he is sending a message. But what he clearly doesn't want, we assume, is to go to war with Iran. He doesn't.
Okay, yeah. So you know why he doesn't want to go to Iran? Because Iran use our money to put in terrorist organization of Iran. We gave them all the money. We gave them the sanctions back. They got the money. Y'all knew about the trade-off, $6 billion for 6 hostages. So
over days, and possibly over days or weeks. Faytux News says official military statements usually mean the attacks have ended. However, this situation is special, so I don't know if CENTCOM's statement means the strikes have ended. Well, again, I don't know if they've ended for now, but John Kirby explicitly said in a White House press briefing a day or two ago, explicitly said the first thing you see won't be the last. And that's also something, I forget the exact wording, but the defense secretary said something like that yesterday. So there's going to be more strikes.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be more strikes because that's just, we have had that telegraphed by the U.S. government for the last several days. Jojo thinks the president will address the country maybe this evening. I haven't heard that he will. I don't know, but I haven't heard that. So let's just look at this again. CENTCOM statement, U.S. Central Command, at 4 p.m., that's 50 minutes ago, Eastern Time, U.S. Central Command forces conducted airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, Quds Force, and affiliated militia groups. U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets with numerous aircraft to include long-range bombers flown from the United States. The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operation centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicle storages. They've actually corrected a couple typos in this. And logistics and munition supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces. So if they updated their post, did they edited it? Do I have to repost it again? Let's see. No, it's there. So will that be it for like a day or what? This is an unconfirmed report here. I'm not sure about this video. Stephen Nabil, who is a Middle Eastern analyst, he says that U.S. airstrike targeted a house used as a munitions and rocket storage by the militias in Al-Qaim, Iraq. I don't know if this is legit video, but I don't know if that report is true. Let's see. I got to open up some other things here. Let me open up a couple things here.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to check some Arabic language media too.
Okay, while he's doing that, we're going to go back and tell you what the top story is.
Okay, so supposedly, this is from Omar Habib, who I follow for Iraq stuff. This is supposedly from Al-Qaim, Iraq. He says the situation in the city of Al-Qaim, it's difficult for people in the wake of American bombing of weapons stores, as the video from the city shows. Unconfirmed video from Iraq here.
Okay.
Is that really from tonight? From Iraq?
We don't
I
know.
don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah. I wouldn't pay much attention to that. Okay, let's see what this guy is saying. Trying to get
tempered against that need to provide a measured response, because absolutely you don't want to make a bad situation worse.
No.
So I think that it'll be.
All right. So basically, what's going on? What's going on? Biden administration. Yes. Okay. No, we got Kamala. She's doing something live. Let's see what Kamala is talking about. at a campaign event. This is what she has to say. But she is an idiot. You know, we all know what Kamala. We all know what Kamala Harris, how she got her job as vice president. Yeah, we all know about that. Let's see here. Oh, born in South Carolina. Joe Biden is not in South Carolina. Y'all know. Kamala is trying to get the knucklehead Democrat committee. Let's see here. Let's see what this idiot has to say real quick. We're gonna peep in here.
And he overturned Roe v. Wade. Proud that he took the freedom of choice from millions of American women. For years, the former president has stoked the fires of hate and bigotry and racism and xenophobia for his own power and political gain.
All right, this woman is a idiot. I just had to say this. We're doing airstrikes right now against terrorist organizations. She's not even talking about that. She's talking about racism. She's talking about sexism. Y'all know about what I think about Planned Parenthood. Who the founder of Planned Parenthood is. Yes, I'm gonna go off tonight. Planned Parenthood. The person that make how you call it, the creator of Planned Parenthood is a on the form the KKK too, the Democrat Party. Now this idiot right here, Kamala Harris has no biological children. I wonder why. Oh yeah, she believes in killing babies. Okay.
And it is on us then to recognize the profound threat he poses to our democracy and to our freedoms. And let us recognize there are extremists across our country who have been inspired.
Okay, I can listen to which. Yes, I'm behaving myself. I cannot listen to this woman. Why should I listen to a woman? She has no biological children. Why? Why should I? That's another story for a different day. Don't have time for that. Well, she's in South Carolina, but she's an idiot. She is a. Yeah, I know. Okay, breaking news. CBS News. All right. Dr. Phil. All right. Dun, dun, dun. All right, go ahead. Okay. All right, we'll go back. We're gonna go back to free agenda. Kamala, woman's sick. We know how she got that job as Attorney General in California. All right, let's go back to. All right, let's see here.
This video again. I can't confirm it. This is FJ, who I follow. It's the same video I showed you from Telegram. Supposedly, it's from Al Qaim, Iraq. So FJ thinks what's going on here is you're seeing secondary explosions of projectiles and munitions following U.S. airstrikes on an IRGC-linked warehouse. Maybe that is what it is. I don't know. I'll play you this again.
Taking it with you wherever you go.
Okay, let's see here. All right, so I'm still waiting for
Oh,
him.
and then here's another video posted by Here's one that Aurora Intel found. Reportedly, the targeting of the Al-Sika neighborhood in Al-Qaim, Iraq.
يا ستار يمكن صواريخ مشاكل والله لا يقعد علينا والله جاي تطاير يا ستار الله يستر الله يستر الله يستر بردا وسلاما ان شاء الله.
Okay, this is we'll go ahead and
So you're seeing some of these videos that are going around. What is this?
Oh, right.
I'm seeing some quotes attributed to officials, but I'm not sure if they're legit. So I'm going to check on those as well. Hang on here. Give me a moment. Oh, is this Syrian television? Hey guys, I found a link to a story by Syrian television. Syria TV, which is a TV station about Syria, but it's in Istanbul, Turkey.
Mm.
Let me show you what they're reporting for whatever it's worth. Syria TV is a pro-opposition Syrian television network. That is from Wikipedia. So Syria TV has this. They say at least 6 Iranian militia members were killed and others were injured in an airstrike launched by American warplanes on the eastern countryside of Deir ez-Zor in Syria. Pro-Iranian pages announced that 3 people had been killed as an initial result of an American bombing that targeted Iranian militia sites, blah, 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 before announcing the number had risen to 6 dead. I can't confirm this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hearing some unconfirmed reports of casualties after these strikes. Al Jazeera is reporting a source in the Islamic resistance in Iraq, which is the umbrella group of militias supported by Iran, that the U.S. said the Islamic resistance in Iraq is responsible for the drone strike on the U.S. outpost Sunday. Basically, the U.S. called out the Islamic resistance of Iraq militia. It's a group of militia groups, basically. So Al Jazeera says a source in the Islamic resistance in Iraq told Al Jazeera that there were 6 American strikes inside Iraq and included a weapons depot. A source from Islamic resistance in Iraq also told Al Jazeera the bombing targeted sites from which missiles and I don't know if it's drones, resistance marches were launched against American bases.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get you the latest updates here. I'm checking a bunch of different sources. We'll show you some more videos. Give me a shout on X at Lookner. In case you missed it, U.S. retaliatory strikes have begun in Iraq and Syria, retaliating for the drone strike on Sunday, which killed 3 U.S. Americans, 3 American soldiers in Jordan, and that the U.S. says was carried out by Iran-backed militant groups. Or militants.
You mean terrorists? You're not going to hear anything from Joe Biden. Let's go, Brandon. Let's see here. We got Kamala Harris who's doing it. Now let's see.
Oh, I have an update here from Jeff Selden.
Okay.
Okay, U.S. official tells VOA News the slew of strikes in Iraq and Syria were aimed at causing a major disruption in logistics for Iran's IRGC forces and its militia groups. Iran has forces in Iraq and Syria, and it supports militia groups there. The targets are critical to their supply chain, per the official, adding the strikes were not for personnel purposes. See, when I read you the CENTCOM statement, I said it sounded like these strikes were not targeting personnel. Well, that's what a U.S. official tells VOA News' Jeff Selden. The strikes were not for personnel purposes, so leaving room to escalate, I would assume. U.S. assessment on strikes ongoing, but official says they were deliberate and intentional. We hit what we intended to hit. Targets hit in the newest wave of U.S. strikes versus Iran-backed groups in Iraq, Syria, were chosen with care to minimize the risk of civilian casualties, per U.S. official. Initial early assessments not showing any civilian casualties so far.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do this. Let me go ahead and do this. He's doing
And in
something.
case you missed it, let me just read you the CENTCOM statement again.
All right.
CENTCOM. At 4 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. Central Command Forces conducted airstrikes in Iraq and Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC Quds Force, and affiliated militia groups. U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets with numerous aircraft, to include long-range bombers flown from the United States. The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operations centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicle storages, and logistics and munition supply chain facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors, who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces.
All right. So basically, all right. Oh, we're kind of like that. See, they always go on commercial when I switch. So let me get you up to date on what's going on. Since I have knowledge of what military, how they work. Basically, United States forces like to start first at night, early in the morning, when it's the darkest. They get strike at night. Doesn't mean if it's cloudy or rainy, they get the strike at night. Basically, usually it's a combination of B-1 bombers, where they're made in 1980s and refit and all that stuff. B-1 bomber was designed back in the 80s to carry nuclear weapons. Now they are just the main bomber force, other than the B-52. B-1 bombers and supersonic aircraft carries a lot more munitions than the B-52. B-1 bomber will carry cruise missiles, guided missiles, guided bombs, and dumb bombs. Basically, and yes, the B-1 bomber is designed to go supersonic speeds. It's way faster than B-52. They like to go low on that one, and they're going to little prick targets. That's what I call it. Prick targets. Mm-hmm. Yes, prick targets like that. And a lot of people say, "Why are you talking about cruising?" This is prime time. This is breaking news. Don't forget, guys, hit that like button. Yes, we have the weather girl in the house. Sherry, how you doing? I am just chilling out, watching the breaking. Yes, I do breaking news. I do breaking news. Um, so yes, this is the breaking news. A lot of people are not going to talk about what they're going to talk about. Oh, stupid phone call. It's a robot. Anyways, yes, the breaking news is U.S. forces have struck the terrorist cells in the Middle East after Saturday's attack that killed 3 American Patriots soldiers for the U.S. Army. They came back from Dover Air Force Base to be buried at Arlington Cemetery, I think. Yeah, heroes, their patriots, and stuff like that. United States forces that struck over an hour ago. Different targets. Well, they've been doing that for the past couple of weeks. So, my personal opinion, they should have done that. They should have done that on Sunday instead of waiting for 6 days before they do that. My knowledge in the military is pretty cool. They use a combination of B-1 bombers. Most definitely use the stealth bomber, B-2 stealth bombers. One of the squadrons are based in St. Louis, Missouri. So they got a mid-air refueling. They use KC-135 tankers for that. And they fly at night. And yeah. It is like 115, 120 in the Middle East. And we're going to get back. We're going to get back to the a guy that I like, Agenda Free. He's getting more information. I think he is. He has a lot of good connections. Now, this is, let's see here. Our response begins again is considered as place with our convenience. I said that before. 6 days. Took them 6 days. Now, all right. Now they're doing other stuff. See, I go ahead and go back to the guy. I'm trying to find some live coverage from BBC. Okay, breaking it too. All right, he did something. I'll find out what's going on. Uh-oh. Okay. Let's see here. All right, here we go. Is that you gonna say?
New video, and I can't verify this. Global Military Info posted this one and said, looks like a rocket storage facility was hit in Iraq by the U.S.
هذا بالجوال. قولوا.
So what Global Military Info is saying is when you see those things fly up, it's not like anti-aircraft fire. It's what FJ said as well. The idea would be is like some weapon storage facility was hit and maybe there's like rockets in it. And so as the facility burns, you get this ammunition like rockets that catches on fire and flies off. That's the idea. Gezo says it's missiles cooking off. It might be the same video or a different one. I couldn't tell if that was a different angle. We've seen a couple videos that are like that. I think we saw another one from farther away. Again, I can't confirm it. It seems like that's coming from, that might be a legit video from Iraq.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me go ahead and do this real quickly. Let me go ahead and pause him for just a second while he's trying to get more information.
And then Intel Crab, yeah, see, this is a different one, but it might be the same.
All right, now what we're going to do with this is, it is breaking news. That's why I have it on all three channels. The Z Show, the Z Show Cruise Fun, and the Z's Gaming Home Theater. I like doing breaking news. Yes, it's prime time. I do breaking news. A lot of people say, Z, you're the man when it comes to breaking news. But yes, U.S. strikes. Now, here's what I want y'all guys to do. For me, you don't have to put on your TVs. If you're watching this on your phone, you can put it like, if you're doing something else, just put the volume up to 1 and just get into watch hours. I'm still waiting for some. Come on. Oh, they're in a commercial break. So, yeah. I'm still waiting for that. Thank you guys for coming in. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Go ahead and check out the Weather Girl. I'm doing that. So, yes, I'm putting this on. I need to check to see what's going on. Still a commercial break. All right. All right, these. Okay. Oh, hold on. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see here. Again. Uh-oh. Let's see here. All right, here we go. We got Fox News Channel. Okay, here we go. Here we go. This is we'll check it on a 5 Fox News Channel. These guys. We're gonna see. Go ahead and
have consequences for actions not in the United States. They, like you said, if you harm Americans, there will be payback. Well, there are Americans being harmed in the United States every damn day. We don't do shit about the border. We don't do anything about crime. When will we send a message to the illegal immigrants or the fentanyl suppliers or the smash and grabbers? Or hell, why not send a message to the people who assault cops? I'm not saying bombing. I'm saying actually creating disincentives, actually punishing people who deserve punishment in the United States and protecting millions of Americans here. I don't want our troops getting bombed over there. I prefer that they be home here. So you put the sitting ducks out there, then we got to go send some virtue signaling message to show that we're doing something and that we know is not doing anything. And then we got to sit here and act like armchair experts talking about this crap for 17 minutes. I'm sick of it.
All right, I'm not sure where to go with that.
Richard.
All right. No, there's actually something you said, Greg, that I actually agree with. That, and I think if you study the history of how we got here, and the idea that decades ago, a group of folks sat in a room and took Crayola and drew lines throughout the.
Okay, let me back up. I want to hear what he has to say. Okay, I'm gonna play this, and I like this. All right, here we go.
Or would have left. You know, I won't speculate on any of that. I would just tell you that you know, we will have a multi-tiered response.
Okay.
So, Will, I think it would be safe to assume that given the time of day when they struck after midnight local time and the telegraphing that had taken place, we had seen reports that Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps commanders had been called back to Iran. I would be very surprised if any of them had been at these bases.
Mm-hmm.
There may have been a few people left behind, but not the senior commanders. And I think perhaps that was by design. Again, you've heard the Pentagon and others say that they're not seeking a war with Iran. That's why U.S. officials are ruling out any strikes inside Iran at this time. But again, this is the first salvo. They're hoping that Tehran gets the message without this having to escalate.
Great, Judge Pirro.
Jennifer, I understand that the United States is saying they're not seeking a war, but at the same time, there are those who believe that if you just hit the proxies in Syria and Iraq, that it's not going to matter to Iran.
Yeah.
And that when Iran can separate itself from the proxies, saying, they go rogue, when the truth is the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps both trains them and pays them,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of disingenuous. And then what is the point of our hitting the proxies?
Yeah.
Well, it's a very good question. And certainly this shell game that Iran has been playing in the Middle East by arming and supporting and training these proxies, whether it's in Lebanon with Hezbollah, whether it's these various groups in Syria and Iraq, whether it's the Houthis in Yemen, whether it's Hamas in the Gaza Strip, there is a common thread here, and it is Iran, and it is Tehran. And the U.S. has not figured out a way to put enough pressure on Iran to make it painful enough for them to stop supporting these groups. And in fact, there are some who believe, and this is why it's a very delicate balancing act for the White House National Security Team, as well as the Pentagon, is how not to get baited into a war with Iran, because some believe that's what Iran wants, that they wanted Israel to find itself in a war with Hamas and for the U.S. to stumble into a larger conflict. And so that's what people are trying to avoid. But they also believe that by striking 85 targets, as well as a days-long, if not weeks-long campaign, that they can ratchet up the pressure on Iran. They're going to lose a lot of valuable property that their proxies have been using to torment and taunt U.S. bases for the last 3 months. The question one should ask is, what took so long? Of course, it's tragic that 3 Americans were killed, but the U.S. troops sitting in Iraq and Syria have been sitting ducks for months now.
Indeed. Jennifer Griffin, thank you so much. We want to get to Mike Tobin. He's in Israel and Tel Aviv. He's got the latest with reaction there, as I'm sure that they are on heightened alert as well.
Okay, let me go ahead and fast forward this.
We're always on heightened alert at this stage, Dick. And what I can really confirm for you right now are just some of the locations. We have a source inside of Iraq who says indeed there have been
facilities in Iraq and Syria that the IRGC, that's the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, and affiliated militia used to attack U.S. forces. He goes on to say that our response began today and it will continue at a time and place of our choosing. That's a line that the White House and the administration have been using now for some time. He also says the U.S. does not seek conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world, but let all those who might seek to do us harm know this: if you harm an American, we will respond. The president, as he mentioned, attended that dignified transfer earlier today. He's back home at his home in Delaware.
No,
where we weren't expecting to hear much more from him today until he released this statement. There has been plenty of criticism of the White House and the time that it has taken in this response.
several days since the.
All right, let me pause this for just a second. I'm gonna pause this. So, just wrapping this up. We started military airstrikes against Iran, sponsors of terror. Iran, we all know, is the number one state sponsor of terror. This is a response to attack that killed 3 of our bravest soldiers. But these guys have been doing it for 3 months. 3 months. There are a lot of soldiers got injured, brain trauma, 3 months. And then Saturday night, Sunday morning, these 3 free, brave Americans lost their lives. Sunday. So 6 days. So, and then we say, hey, we're not going to attack Iran. So that's a signal. That is a signal, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people going to say, oh, what are you talking about, Z? Okay, you're not going to attack the number one state sponsor of terror, which is Iran. You're not going to attack the country that made the drone to kill our people. And you say we're not going to attack Iran. That means the terrorist organizations, all the head guys are going to go to Iran to be safe. You don't tell your enemy what you're going to do or what you're not going to do. Now, I think Greg is going to talk about that. We'll go ahead. I just want to make sure what you guys know what's going on. This is a Democratic organization. The Democrats are running the military, not the military. It's politicians. Always have, always will be.
That it should have been a robust response and one that should have happened shortly thereafter that attack.
Mm-hmm.
Senator Lindsey Graham had said earlier today, before the details of this strike came out, that the lapse of time has lessened the impact of deterrence, and by not hitting oil infrastructure in Iran or Revolutionary Guard personnel, you will have failed to make the point. Iran is one of those subjects, one of the many subjects that Republicans and the White House have been at odds over since the beginning of the administration. The White House has tried to get the U.S. back into the Iran nuclear deal. Those attempts have failed. There was the prisoner swap, and you remember the $6 billion that the administration was going to unfreeze for Iranian assets. The U.S. said that fell apart, especially after the Hamas attack on Israel and Iran's support for Hamas. So this continues to be a point of friction. We'll get more updates from Capitol Hill as the details come out.
Quick question from me and then the judge and Will. I just have, has the White House called a lid for the day?
The White House called the lid a couple of hours ago, which is why this statement was a surprise. The lid, of course, meaning you're not going to hear from the president today. And then, of course, we did. And so as this continues, we may expect to hear more from administration officials and from the White House.
All right, Judge Janine.
You know, it's very interesting to hear the administration say, quote, if you harm an American, we will respond. It appears that they harmed over 100 Americans before the United States responded. And the United States is making it clear that it doesn't want a broader war. I mean, the Republicans obviously don't agree with the stance of this administration. I mean, does anyone think this is really going to change things based upon this kind of tepid response?
Yeah, you know, Judge, you look at the nearly 170 attacks on U.S. positions in Iraq and in Syria and now in Jordan since the middle of October. And there has been plenty of criticism about the several attacks that the U.S. has had on positions in Iraq and Syria since those attacks began, and sort of the timeline that it took just for those retaliatory responses. And now what's ostensibly the largest response that we've had to date. The administration has justified its responses in saying that it's trying to maintain deterrence by trying to ensure that this doesn't spread wider, a conflict doesn't spread wider in the Middle East, because you've got Israel fighting Hamas in Gaza, you've got Israel and Hezbollah on the Lebanon border going back and forth, you've got the Houthis in Yemen attacking shipping in the Gulf of Aden and in the Red Sea, and now you've got all of these attacks on American positions on the Middle East. But the Republicans have argued, and those like Senator Lindsey Graham have argued, that unless you have something that is really robust and shows that you mean business, you're not showing that. In fact, you're only inviting more of these attacks.
Tim's in at the White House, thank you. And if they pop the lid again, let us know.
Let you know.
Okay. Take it around the table here, Judge.
You know, what's interesting about all of this is that the United States, is in my last question to Rich, is the United States is not going to respond. It's not by going into Tehran, okay? When Donald Trump was president, he took out Soleimani, who was the head of the Revolutionary Guard Corps. Now, if the United States made a decision to go after that island, wherever that island is, where they have that oil supply, then we would hurt Iran economically and hurt, consequently, all of the proxies. The problem is if we did that, then the price of oil would go up in a presidential year. So, you know, the administration, again, is in this schizophrenic, like, we're going to let Iran sell oil in the open market. We're going to let them eat the billions of dollars that they got from our hostage exchange. But we're going to warn them not to touch Americans. But only after they touch 100 and then kill 3 will we respond. It's a schizophrenic. It's not clear what we're willing to do.
There's a huge amount of if they've already done 85 strikes, 85 targets, that's a huge amount of capacity that Iranian-backed proxies have in order to attack our troops who are there. So, if there's several more days of this, then that's a lot of capability that we've allowed them to build up.
I would make 2 points, and I would be curious, actually, Greg, at your response to this, but one on the micro and one on the macro. On the micro, I don't see that much has actually happened. In terms of some strikes, yes, that has occurred. What has it done to deter Iran? If they have a heads-up warning to pull their people out, then I don't know that anything message has been sent that would deter them in the future. But the macro is, and forgive the not-so-subtle plug, but I had Senator Rand Paul on my digital show this week, the Will Kane Show, and he said this. He said, when it comes to the Houthis, strike them and strike them hard. They're messing with international shipping lanes. When it comes to this story, what we're looking at right now, why do we have guys scattered across Syria? Why do we have guys scattered across Iraq? Why are we leaving ourselves vulnerable to the potential for an attack to Iran?
No, I agree. I mean, I think the phrase was used, sitting ducks. Why are the ducks there, right? I think we've learned a lot in the last couple of years that we shouldn't be there. I mean, look, this would be the first time in my life that I agree with Joy Reid. Not another effing war, right? I'm warred out. We had Ukraine, it's 2 years, Gaza, Iran. You know, one day they're good guys, the next day they're bad guys, then they're good guys again, and then we're not sure, and then we talk. You know, a wise man once said, and I wish I remembered his name, it's big if we make it big. And that's what we do. We take things and we make it big. And why is it that we only have consequences for actions not in the United States? Like you said, if you harm Americans, there will be payback. Well, there are Americans being harmed in the United States every damn day. We don't do shit about the border. We don't do anything about crime. When will we send a message to the illegal immigrants or the fentanyl suppliers or the smash and grabbers? Or hell, why not send a message to the people who assault cops? I'm not saying bombing. I'm saying actually creating distance. Sentence, actually punishing people who deserve punishment in the United States and protecting millions of Americans here. I don't want our troops getting bombed over there. I prefer that they be home here. So you put the sitting ducks out there, then we got to go send some virtue signaling message to show that we're doing something and that we know is not doing anything. And then we got to sit here and act like armchair experts talking about this crap for 17 minutes. I'm sick of it.
All right, I'm not sure where to go with that.
All right. No, there's actually something you said, Greg, that I actually agree with. And I think if you study the history of how we got here and the idea that decades ago, a group of folks sat in a room and took Crayola and drew lines throughout the Middle East. And then, to your point, one day they were our friends, the next day they were our enemies. The weapons that we sold them when they were our friends, they used them to kill us when they were our enemies. And now we're here. And I think that's what's the sad part here. I think the one thing that I would add to this conversation when it comes to some of the news of the day, which we haven't heard much about, is that today the Justice Department did announce that the United States government has seized 500,000 barrels of Iranian oil that was internationally sanctioned, that was being illegally trafficked to sellers in China, Russia, and Syria. So just adding that
Finally.
Yeah,
I'm just adding that because I think that news is important given the fact that we're having this conversation around Iranian containment.
But the question is, what impact does that have on Iran? Just like we won't hit Iran, we won't hit that island where the oil is, we won't hit any infrastructure in Iran. But the thing that I want an answer to is that drone that went into Jordan that killed 3 of our servicemen and injured over 40. They couldn't track it. I want to know if it was an American drone from Afghanistan. Is that the reason that our system defenses didn't recognize that drone that came in and killed 3 and injured at least 40?
But the other thing is that happened this week is that the Biden administration, it was late last week, decided to answer to the TikTok crowd and McKibben and cancel liquefied natural gas exports to Russia, to Europe. So where do you think they're going to get it next? I mean, they have to heat their homes.
Right.
So we're basically bombing them at the time that we're also cutting off their nose to spite our face and our allies. So there's a lot to make sense of. We're going to keep going with this because we have retired Army Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. He's also a Fox News contributor. He can give us his thoughts and tell us where we are right or wrong. But mostly, I'm sure we're right, as you'll say.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm not going to go where Greg was at, though. Look, here's one of the things that the reason why you want to. We've been dodging a bullet for the last 90 days. They finally get home with the deaths of 3 great Americans, and that can continue in the future. This thing is not stopping, not at all. And I would like to know what is the end state of this contingency plan that the United States has established with all this bombing. I don't know where they're going to. They need to tell us.
Well, they called the lid, so I don't think we're going to get that tonight. Thank you, General Kellogg. Let's bring in former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman. He's also a Fox News contributor. And I'm curious what you think about that leak from last night that came out from...
All right. Yeah, let me go ahead and do this real quick. Got to say hello to people. Hey, Bama Noah, how you doing, bro? Well, yes, this is breaking news. Well, 6 days. 6 days since men and women had died of the terrorist attack. Joe Biden doing that handshakes, not attacking Iran, attacking Syria and Iraq terrorists. Now, I got this. Pause for a second. Yes, so it happened a couple hours ago. That's why I'm on now. All 3 channels. This is breaking news. This is what I like to do. So we'll go ahead and play this. Give me a second. All right, here we go.
A war.
You know, Judge, you and both the General Kellogg.
Back up.
I don't want to have a war any more than anyone.
All right. All right, Judge. I'll listen to the 5 real quickly. I got it. All right, here we go.
Doesn't make any sense.
You know, I refer to it, Dana, as a schizophrenic approach, but I mean, that's a benign way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
It really is an approach that is political, so you're able to say to the Americans, I'm doing this, or I'm supporting Israel, or we're attacking them, or, you know, we hit them 65 times or 85, whatever the number was, but at the same time saying to Iran, look, we're going to let you have that $10 billion waiver and the $6 billion for the hostages, and we're going to let you sell oil on the international market. And that's what's so frustrating to me. I don't want to have a war any more than anyone else. But I think Greg is right. We've got Americans all over the place, all over in Iraq and Syria, and I understand. But, you know, we need to keep an eye on Al-Qaeda and everybody else. But when Donald Trump was president, and I don't want to make this political, but you had a leader who said, the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, I'm going to kill their leader, Soleimani, took him out. That was it. And then Joe Biden, he leaves Afghanistan. How many billions of dollars worth of armaments are in the Middle East? And I believe they're using them against us now. So the administration is not stupid. There is some other agenda going on where it's not just, we have to do this, but we got to let China do this. We got to let Iran do that. And we don't want to fight them. And we got to give them warning. And we want them to know we don't want to have a war. Hey, you kill an American, you should have a war.
You know, Judge, you and both the General Kellogg brought up the instance of Donald Trump making a threat to the Taliban and then striking Soleimani and that backing off of power. What I would offer up is this. Donald Trump is an exception to the rule. Donald Trump is one of the reasons he was so hated by both the machine that exists within Washington, D.C. that is now gearing up for yet another war. Whether it was left or right, Republican or Democrat, there was enmity towards Donald Trump. And I think it's in part because it stood in the way of moments like this when you need some sobriety to say, if I'm connecting the dots correctly, we have presence scattered around this area for counterterrorism. Those targets then get hit. Then we now too, I'm just listening to the conversation throughout this first 35 minutes, Greg, then we have to go hit the people that hit us. And we live under this delusion that's just going to stop them. One big stop, and then they're not going to. Of course, that's set against the backdrop of about 50 years of talk of regime change in Iran. And we have a great history of regime change. That's worked out really well in Afghanistan. Of course, now we're regime changing in Afghanistan, and it feeds instability and chaos across the greater Middle East, everywhere we go in to set stability. And before you know it, we've seeded the ground for more terrorism that comes back and hits us, which undercuts the original purpose of putting troops in place in the Middle East in the first place as counterterrorism. I just think we might need some sobriety before we fire up the war machine on this cycle that seems to always end up in American death.
And why? Why was it that there was so much going on with Al-Qaeda and all the beheadings and the bombings? And then in 6 weeks, you get rid of the caliphate when Trump came in. He gave the generals full authority, go in there and get rid of it. He got rid of them.
To Will's point, and I think you're speaking to something that's absolutely right, because I think you have to rewind the tape before you get to Donald Trump, right? Because you're absolutely right. When we talk about when you talk about the caliphate, when you talk about Al-Qaeda, when you talk about Afghanistan, when you talk about the death of our troops, and you talk about how our troops died, and I think that's the hardest part about it, is they died with weapons that we stole to the people to begin with in the 80s. And then
sitting in the desert.
Okay, no, let me go ahead and just say this. I like this talk about what's going on, the airstrikes and everything like that. And the judge, I love the judge. I love Greg. But the judge said it when Donald Trump was president, and these knuckleheads were acting like fools, attacking our soldiers. Donald Trump said, and I'm quoting him, if one American gets hurt because of your stupidity, I would turn your country into glass. He actually said that. So one knucklehead attacks one of our soldiers, and Donald Trump says, okay. He took out one of the key members of Iranian government. Took him out. Know where he was. Tell the generals, you have our permission to beat the living crap out of him and just kill him. Now, when Let's Go Brandon comes into office, we had Iran down to its knees. We had them. And then you're telling me that more black people voted for Joe Biden, and you let that knucklehead come into office. You know what he did? He took away all the stuff that Donald Trump did and said, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. My son is going to go to the Middle East. My son's going to go to China and make some money for my family. That's what he said. That's what we're doing with all this right now. Now, if Trump was in office, I'll say this. If Donald Trump was in office, none of this crap would be happening because people in the Middle East, the Iranians, the terrorists, the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans was afraid of Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump did not take crap from anybody. Now we're dealing with this. This is not good. These attacks are not as big as I wish they were. And like I always say, You don't tell your enemy what you're going to do when it comes to war. We are at war. Iran is with a war with us. Iran's key logo is death to Israel, death to the Jewish state, and death to America. They say that. The government does say that, but we say, oh, we're not at war. It don't hurt us. If you attack our people, we're going to go to the UN. I'm tired. We need to take out Iran, period. We don't have to put our boots to the ground. We got Tomahawk cruise missiles that can hit Iran. We have the greatest Navy in the world, the greatest Air Force in the world. We can make Iran look like glass. So I want you to know all about that. We're going to keep this going.
But I mean, let's go back to the 1980s when we were literally selling weapons to many of these places that used those weapons to then kill American troops. In the history of this region, and this is not the only region where this is the case. Anytime America goes into places and says, we're going to build a democracy here, right? Or we're going to make this place better, and we're going to sell weapons in this place and give them a chance, what ends up happening is Americans end up dying as a result. It might not happen in that decade. It might happen 2 or 3 decades later, but it's the weapons that we sold them the decade before.
Hey, we did a great job with regime change in Ukraine. That worked out really well. I'm sorry. I'm sitting at home watching the 5 right now, and I'm just going like, don't lecture me on deterrence. We don't have any deterrence anywhere, especially in the United States. We have no idea what an incentive or a disincentive is. Obviously, I've become very cynical about this. I mean, I spoke out about Ukraine. The first week it started, it's called a Putin puppet. And now we're 2 years into it. We've got, 70,000, 80,000 Ukrainian dead. And that all could have been prevented. But, we had to have a war, Anyway, I'm no expert on this, but I know if I were sitting at home right now, I feel like all of this information and all of this speculation, you heard it before, you're going to hear it again. We're just filling a bucket.
All right, well, let's bring in special report anchor Brett Baer to help us fill the bucket. Brett, you've been watching this. You know the region well and the issues well, and catch us up on what you think tonight.
Well, a couple of things. One is the White House put out a statement saying that the president making the statement that this afternoon he, at his direction, issued this order for U.S. forces in response at the time and place of his choosing. Kept on saying that. The White House said it, the Defense Secretary said it, the State Department said it. Today was the time and the place. The place, Syria and Iraq, and these Iran proxy groups on the ground, some 85 targets, 125 precision munitions. Interestingly, it happened just moments after the transfer of the American bodies, the 3 soldiers who were killed in that base in Jordan by drones that were funded by the Iranians. Whenever anybody takes this, we can't prove that these proxy groups are tied directly to Iran. You talk to experts in the intel world, it's direct. There are hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to these proxy groups. They don't fire a BB gun without getting the blessing, essentially, of Iran. Interestingly, in the White House statement and the CENTCOM statement, it says and mentions the IRGC, the Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, as being part of this, saying that those were part of the targets. And it goes on to say, the United States does not seek conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world, but let all those who might seek to do us harm know this: if you harm an American, we will respond. Well, already there has been a response from some Republican lawmakers who are very critical of how long this has taken. Mike McCall, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, saying almost a week after today's strikes, it's long overdue following the delay that allowed our enemies to prepare. So there will be criticism about how long it takes, but to Greg's point, it is a deterrence when the U.S. military is fully engaged. When you fly B-1 bombers from the U.S., the Middle East pays attention. And whether it's right or wrong in response to an American soldier being dead, this is a big response. We don't have all the targets yet, and we'll see more as the hours progress.
Brett, you interviewed the Prime Minister of Qatar earlier this week. what would he be thinking about this tonight? Do they welcome it?
Well, I asked him specifically if and when the U.S. responds to this attack in Jordan, the killing of 3 American soldiers, what will Qatar say? Well, how will the response?
Okay, we'll go ahead and fast forward
About
this.
deterrence, and yet, what is a larger risk for Americans? Something over there, or something to the south at our border?
Exactly.
We have absolutely no deterrence there, and I think are we talking about punishment, or are we talking about deterrence? Are they the same thing? Because what you try to do is you try to put somebody in a deeper hole than they were if they hadn't done something, correct? That's what Soleimani was.
Right.
So that put Iran in a deeper hole than they were before. But the thing with strikes, or the idea of these calculated deterrents, is that they're just back where they started. We're just putting them back where they started. It's like a kid who keeps doing skateboarding tricks, falls down, gets back up, keeps doing it until he gets it right.
Yeah.
We never actually get them down so they're below where they started. So that's why it's frustrating, when we talk about this stuff. And meanwhile, we do nothing for the immediate challenges and threats at our border.
Totally agree with
All right.
that about the border. Let me just say one thing.
Brett, we'll thank you, and we'll let you go. And Brett, you have an answer? Sorry.
No.
We have
I was
Joey
just going to
Jones
say.
getting up ready.
Yeah, I was just going to say, listen, what isn't deterrence is saying repeatedly, don't.
Right.
That didn't work.
Yeah.
I'm going to see you at 6 o'clock. I got a lot to do.
Okay. Thanks, Brett. And Joey Jones is on the phone with us. Hi, Joey.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Let's get your take. We'll give you the floor.
Yeah, listen, if this were about deterrence, it would have happened a couple of months ago. At least 160 some odd strikes against the United States ago. This is about pacifying Americans who are literally sitting here going, really? We're going to let someone hit us 200 times and kill 3 of us now, and injure dozens of us, and we're just going to say that you don't? That's our best policy here. I hate to believe that presidential politics has.
Okay, so basically, they're talking about that. Let's go ahead and go back. I want to go to this guy. It is now 20 in Iran. We put him on and see what he.
Quds Force has been targeted previously. I mean, Bloomberg's saying it's a serious escalation. I don't know that that's true.
Yeah.
Remember, I read you this. Let's go back here. I'm going to show you a couple things here. First of all, Jason Brodsky, who's an expert on the Middle East, says the U.S. targeted Iranian IRGC forces in October 2023 airstrikes. Those were likely Quds Force as well. And Nafisa Khanavard from BBC said this is not the first time the U.S. has targeted IRGC Quds Force locations in Syria and Iraq. They have done it before, like when the U.S. jets targeted ammunition depots belonging to IRGC back in 2022. I don't know how escalatory this really is. I'm not hearing that from other analysts. Jason Brodsky, who I follow for Iran stuff, also posted this from Kasari Arabi, who is director of Iranian IRGC research at United Against Nuclear Iran. He is also a resident scholar at the Middle East Institute. Mm-hmm. He thinks U.S. strikes against Iran positions in Iraq and Syria at present appear more symbolic than practically meaningful. Biden gave the IRGC advance notice and enough time to withdraw its commanders and clear out facilities. Tonight.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get the cruise channel a break. So I'm going to put this on. I'm going to take that out. The Z show will continue. I'm going to have live reports. I want to eat something, so I'm going to get off the cruise channel and have the Z show. And yes, I'll be back on at 6 p.m. hopefully prime time. We'll go ahead and do that now. And All right, so all right, so we are continuing on the Z Show, and Z's Gaming Home Theater. We're going to talk about military stuff, but I got to take a break. It's almost 2:23 in the morning. I got the American Free. Gonna put him on. Yeah,
Actually happened, but Barack Ravid reports American General Douglas Sims in a press briefing. Maybe it's off-camera press briefing. The timing of the attack was determined according to the weather conditions in Iraq and Syria. Today, the weather was suitable, and therefore the attack took place. Today, we believe that we hit exactly what we wanted to hit. A proxy group is a group that does the bidding of another group. So Iranian proxies are groups that do what Iran wants, but they're not Iranian. Okay, I have an update from John Kirby. Look, Hamdi with CNN says the U.S. struck 3 facilities in Iraq and 4 in Syria during the counterattack Friday, which lasted around 30 minutes, according to the White House. We believe the strikes were successful, says NSC spokesman John Kirby. So 7 facilities. 7 facilities. Again, I have a hard time thinking that 7 facilities, when you didn't target personnel and they had days and days to know something was coming. I have a hard time believing that this is going to, on its own, significantly affect what Iran does. Now, maybe the U.S. has sent messages to Iran saying more is going to come if you do more. I mean, sort of seems like so far it's more about the symbolism. But there may be, look, Biden and Secretary of Defense Austin say there's more coming. Kabuki AI says it's all theater. No, it was 85 targets in 7 facilities. You can have multiple targets in one facility. Like if the facility is a collection of buildings, you could have various targets at that facility, for example. Yeah, I'm seeing this reported like everywhere now. Caitlin Collins, CNN. John Kirby says the White House believes the strikes against the facilities in Iraq, and the 3 facilities in Iraq and 4 in Syria were successful. The whole response lasts about 30 minutes. And U.S. military aircraft are now out of harm's way. So 7 facilities. Also, as Faytux News posted this from Jake Epstein, defense reporter, Business Insider, John Kirby also says retaliation will not end tonight. So the U.S. government is saying there are definitely going to be more strikes to come. Will those strikes be later today? How long until the next batch of strikes? That I can't tell you. And something else to watch for is, now that these strikes have happened, are we going to hear any more reports on attacks on U.S. forces? Because that would be a big deal if you now heard of another attack on U.S. forces, like a drone attack or a rocket attack or whatever. Scleratissimus says, many in the chat call today's strikes a weak response. I did ask in chat what they wanted to happen. So, I mean, other options that have been talked about, we've already talked about this on this stream. Obviously, it would be certainly potentially escalatory, but strikes inside Iran, also strikes on, say, Iranian ships, also personnel-directed strikes. These apparently were strikes, they look like they were directed on facilities. They were not specifically targeting personnel. I would think if you had strikes targeting Iranian personnel explicitly, that could be seen as escalatory. So those are several other more escalatory steps, or just a lot more of them, but nothing in Iran, no Iranian ships, not aware that this is a personnel target. That's various things that would be seen as more escalatory. As an example, hey, we're going to continue here and bring you more updates, and I want to take some more of your comments and show you more updates here. What I want to do right this second, real quick. We are bringing you live coverage of the U.S. strikes on Iran and Iraq in response to the Iranian-backed attacks on U.S. forces in the Middle East. We continue to bring you live coverage here. Oops, I won't do that. Okay, what I need really quick is I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break. I'm coming right back, and we're going to continue our live updates and live coverage and read your comments in 2 minutes. I'll be right back. All right, we are back live bringing you updates. In case you missed it, the U.S. has carried out strikes on 7 facilities in Iraq and Syria in the beginning, what they say is the beginning of their retaliation against Iranian and Iran-backed forces for attacks on U.S. forces, U.S. and coalition forces, including a drone attack on Sunday in Jordan that killed 3 U.S. troops and injured dozens. So 7 facilities were attacked with 85 targets at those facilities and were struck by more than 125 precision munitions. President Biden says that more strikes are coming. As I showed you earlier, he said, President Biden said that this afternoon, at my direction, U.S. military forces struck targets at facilities in Iraq and Syria that the IRGC and affiliated militia used to attack U.S. forces. Our response began today. It will continue at times in places of our choosing. The United States did not see conflict in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world, but let all those who might seek to do us harm know this. If you harm an American, we will respond. And then the Secretary of Defense also released a statement saying this was just the beginning. Secretary of Defense Austin said, this is the start of our response. The president has directed additional actions to hold IRGC and the IRGC and affiliated militias accountable for their attacks on U.S. and coalition forces. These will unfold at times and places of our choosing. Our viewer, Deverantum, thinks that the U.S. is going to strike more abandoned facilities. I can't say whether the facilities were abandoned or not. We don't, it's not, there's reporting, one report from a group that reports on Syria claims that, what did they say? Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said, so whenever I say Syria, it activates my Siri. Syrian Observatory for Human Rights claims 13 members of Iran-backed groups were killed in Dai Ezor countryside. Is that true? I don't know. Yeah, they say 18 people were killed. They claim that that 18 militia members were killed in these U.S. strikes. I can't confirm that. Oh, hold on. Are there new explosions now, guys? Al Jazeera just reported Syrian news agency explosions sounded in Deir ez-Zor and a partial power outage as a result of American aggression on several sites. Or is that from before? That was just posted. That was just posted by Al Jazeera on Telegram. They just posted that right now. So is that new? Or is it just old, but they're just posting it now? New update. Oh, we're getting reports of new explosions. Guys, new report of explosions right here. New report right now. New from Al Jazeera. Urgent. Syrian news agency. Explosions sounded in Deir ez-Zor and partial power outage as a result of American aggression on several sites. Possibly new strikes. And then I also see a report right here. Look at this. Al-Mayadeen correspondent in Damascus, a new American raid. We're hearing reports of new raids. Look, Al-Mayadeen correspondent in Damascus, a new American raid targets the Harabesh neighborhood at the eastern entrance to Deir el-Azor. So we're hearing reports right now of possible new strikes. Possible new strikes going on. I can't confirm these reports, but I have just showed you 2 new reports of strikes. Are there new strikes going on? That I don't know. But I am seeing, I showed you those 2 reports. Maybe it'll turn out that there aren't new strikes. But I just showed you from Al-Mayadeen and Al Jazeera reported new strikes. Waiting to get more on them. Again, this is Al-Mayadeen. It's an Arabic language news outlet with 1.1 million followers. They say a new American raid targets the Harabesh neighborhood at the eastern entrance to Deir ez-Zor. And that's in eastern Syria. There's already been strikes in Deir ez-Zor area. But that was just posted 3 minutes ago. I am looking to see if there's any other reports of new strikes. Unconfirmed reports right now of new strikes. Nothing else so far. As soon as I hear anything else on that, I'll let you know. So, are there new strikes? I just don't know right now. I just don't know. Idris Ali, who is with Reuters, says, while it is unclear if any people, he says, while it is unclear if any people were killed in the U.S. strikes today, the Pentagon says the strikes were taken knowing there would be likely casualties amongst those in the facilities hit. And haven't heard anything more after a couple reports claiming new strikes. See if we hear anything more on this. No, nothing yet. a video floating around, and I'm not going to show it to you, and I've seen it posted a couple places, that claims to show like severely injured militia fighters being evacuated. But I don't know if that's legit. But I've seen it a couple places. I can't show it on the air. Again, about 10 minutes ago, Al Jazeera and Al Mayadeen reported some new strikes in Syria, but we don't know if that's actually happening. Let me know what you're hearing. At Lookner on X, as I try to get you more information. DeShark mentioned that, what is this? I don't know about this. This sounds iffy to me because I've heard nothing else about this. 37 minutes ago, Sky News said reports of fire at U.S. base after Iran-backed militia retaliates. Now, this is 37 minutes ago, and I've heard no other reports about this. So this is sounding not that likely to me. Sky News said an Iran-backed militia has reportedly retaliated against U.S. strikes by attacking two bases, U.S. bases in northeast Syria, says international correspondent John Sparks. There are reports of a fire at one of these bases, he adds. I haven't seen this report anywhere else. And again, this is from 38 minutes ago. So, I mean, I'll certainly let you know if I hear it. It'd be a big story if it happened. But given that it's been almost 40 minutes since he posted this and nobody else is posting it, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. We'll see if I hear it anywhere else, I'll let you know. But that's the kind of thing where you'll see multiple places if it really happens. So I'm checking some of the things people are sending. Oksana Harris asked about targets versus facilities. Yes, so there's a facility and a target. So we've heard from the U.S., from the Secretary of Defense, that 7 facilities were attacked and there were 85 targets. So a facility could be, maybe there's some camp that a militia, that an Iran-backed militia uses. It's a facility. Maybe there's 10 buildings and 3 areas where they train people at the camp. So there might be lots of individual places in that camp that you would want to target. So that you might target 20 different areas in that facility. So that would be 20 targets in one facility. Now, I don't know that any place they targeted was a camp, but you know, it's a target would be a more specific site, whereas a facility could be a collection of buildings, could be a place a mile wide or a half mile wide, or a couple city blocks that. Or it could be it could be a storage facility with 5 different warehouses. So that's the way to think about. From what I understand, that's what I think the difference is between facilities and specific targets. They said there were 7 facilities targeted and 85 targets. checking some of these other things people have said. One moment here. All right, let's see if we have any more updates here. By the way, haven't heard anything more about additional strikes. We heard a couple of reports, unconfirmed reports, like 15 minutes ago, but nothing more yet. Al Jazeera says, Director of U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations says there is no information about attacks against U.S. forces since the raids relaunched today. Oops. Here it is right here from Al Jazeera. Director of U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations, there is no information about attacks against our forces since the raids were launched today. Will there be more strikes tonight? There's going to be more strikes at some point, say the U.S., including the president. But will there be more tonight? That I can't tell you. So here is some reporting from this outlet, Dire Azor 24. Now, I can't confirm it. They cover, Dire Azor 24 is a site that covers Syrian news. You can see it says, Dire Azor 24, independent news platform, delivers the news of the community in Syria and diaspora. So this is what they said. I can't confirm this. I'm going to show you some of what they said. Dire Azor reveals the targets of recent U.S. retaliatory strikes in Dire Azor province in Syria, which is one of the places that was targeted. The targets of the airstrikes are as follows. Airstrikes hit Iranian militia sites in this area and a militia site in this area. An airstrike targeted Syrian-Iraqi border positions near the PMF crossing in this area. An airstrike targeted a weapon vehicle that had crossed through the PMF crossing in Al-Bukamal countryside. An airstrike targeted a weapons depot of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard militia in this area in Al-Mayadeen. An airstrike hit a villa and the headquarters of the Abu Abbas Regiment militia, affiliated with Iranian Revolutionary Guard militia in the city of Al-Mayadeen. Some security members who operate at the headquarters were wounded. An airstrike targeted the security square of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard militia in this part of Al-Mayadeen, leaving some local members wounded. An airstrike targeted this headquarters on the outskirts of the city of Al-Mayadeen, focusing on the personnel dormitory in the main gate headquarters. An airstrike targeted Iranian militia headquarters in the city of Al-Mayadeen. It targeted the Iranian militia's wireless communications network and thermal cameras, knocking them out of commission. An airstrike targeted the radar point on the mountain overlooking the airport from the Harabesh neighborhood. An airstrike targeted a military warehouse in the city of Dire Azor. Airstrikes targeted military warehouses west of Deir ez-Zor, causing strong explosions and fire. The bombing was followed by a dispatch of ambulances from Deir ez-Zor towards the warehouses. The number of dead and wounded among the Iranian militias remains inaccurate, and the series of airstrikes were followed by complete calm and military security patrols separating the city of Alba and Bukamal from its countryside through checkpoints to prevent any security breach. Okay, anyways, so that's unconfirmed. It certainly sounds plausible that those are some of the targets hit. I can't confirm it. That's a site that's translated into English. That is a site that reports on Syria stuff. So sounds plausible to me that those would be the type of sites hit. I can't confirm that, but just wanted to read that for you from Deir ez-Zor 24. Thanks so much to our moderators who are here while we bring you live coverage of the beginning of the U.S. Response to Iran's strikes in Iraq and Syria. Maybe we'll show you some of the video again that we have been seeing coming out from these strikes. Let me say a quick thanks to our moderators. Thanks so much to Sarah55 and RJ and Rusty G over there on YouTube. Let's see here. Ruth Kafasi has been there moderating. Thank you so much, Ruth. And also thanks to our Twitch moderators, Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, I Got That Fire, Papa Bear, Sharon C54, and Surly Dev, thank you. On Facebook, Kay Lowry Body moderating, Summer Rosenberger, Valerie Gail Griffin. Thanks so much for moderating over there, Christina Neal. Thanks to all of our mods. Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X, and I do owe a couple thank yous that I want to say. Hang on one moment here. Thanks so much for the Facebook stars. Margaret Martin, Eve Richards, Ronald Egnor, who's also one of our moderators, and Margaret Riley. Thanks, Margaret and Ronald, for moderating and for the Facebook stars, and Kay Body for moderating the Facebook stars, and Lynn Powell as well. Thanks for the Facebook stars, Lynn Powell, and Alicia Rivera. I think I said before, thank you. And also, thanks for your support, Just Me, and Anna, and Tony Leone, and Joe. Any response from Iranian government or others? I have not heard a response from the Iranian government yet. I'll let you know if I hear one, Joe. Thanks. Thanks to Shark and Ruth Krafasi for your support. Occam's Razor, thank you. Marissa Pugliese, Mark Barnes, thanks so much. Grimace, very generous of you, Grimace, with the memberships. Thanks, Grimace, for your support. Baby Blue Sky. What happens if more attacks happen after this? More retaliation from the U.S.? Yeah, I mean, if there's like an attack on U.S. troops, well, look, if there's another attempted attack on U.S. troops and like it's a drone attack and the drones get shot down, I don't know if that's going to change the U.S. plans. I think a big question would be if there's more attacks on the U.S. Because this hasn't all taken place yet. Biden and President Biden said this is the beginning. There's going to be more. But if there's another attack on U.S. forces that kill U.S. forces, obviously that might change what the U.S. does. And also, even once the U.S. finishes these strikes, this set of strikes, if attempted attacks continue happening, even if they're unsuccessful, will there be more strikes? That I can't tell you. Thanks to Christy1432, Wake Up, Elka Booth, Ethan Bolin. Appreciate your support for the channel. All right, let's try to get some more updates here. Nothing more about additional strikes. There were a couple reports about a half an hour ago suggesting maybe there were additional strikes going on in Syria, but we haven't heard anything more about that. I haven't heard anything more about that. Now this is a Palestinian news outlet, Quds News Network, I don't know how reliable this is, they're claiming that 2 civilians were killed in the strikes. Hold on, let me pull this up. Quds News Network is claiming that 2 civilians died in a preliminary toll of the American aggression on the cities of Al-Qaim and Al-Shakat in Iraq. Is that true? I can't tell you that right now. I just don't know. In case you missed it, just to show you a couple of videos that have been floating around that are apparently from tonight. You can see Intel Crab posted this one. It says, he says this is the first confirmed target of the night in Iraq, just outside Al-Qaim, which is on the border with Syria. Numerous secondary explosions suggest this was an ammunition depot, perhaps a large one. So that's not anti-aircraft fire going up in the sky. That would be, say, for example, could be a rocket that was at this, if it's a storage facility and a rocket explodes, it just, goes up in the air or something like that. There's that, and then Aurora Intel posted some videos, like they said that this is additional footage, possibly from the same location as that last video. What? Then this is purportedly from Abu Kamal, which is across the border in Syria from Al-Qaim, Iraq. This is reportedly video taken in Al-Qaim of airstrikes in Abu Kamal, also posted by Aurora Intel. So I can't verify these videos, but Aurora Intel and Intel Crab, they really take care to try to only post videos they think are legit. So they are reliable. They're not going to post stuff before they've looked into it. And they're pretty confident that the video is legit. One more here posted by Aurora Intel. They say additional footage from an impact location belonging to the PMF. As I mentioned, PMF is, I believe, a militia group. The PMF, Popular Mobilization Forces. It's an Iraqi state-sponsored umbrella organization composed of 67 armed factions. Many of its main militias trace their origins to the special groups, Iranian-sponsored Shiite groups. It has some component militias which pledge allegiance to Iran and are considered terrorist groups by some states. So this is additional footage from an impact location belonging to the PMF, says Aurora Intel. Our viewer, Jimmy Anderson, thinks they had a week's warning. All the places they hit were abandoned. Thanks to Moon's Family Fishing for watching. Zach W. says most of these videos will have been post-initial impact. Clearly, most of the sites hit we don't have videos of. Most of it, I mean, there was 85 targets. What did CENTCOM say? 85 targets and 125 precision munitions. So we haven't seen 85 videos. CENTCOM said 85 targets and more than 85 targets, more than 125 precision munitions. Here's a little more of that video from Aurora Intel. Both of those accounts worth following: Intel Crab and Aurora Intel. Oh, this is interesting. This is about a Democratic Senator, Mark Warner. Lucas Tomlinson, who's with Fox News, says Democratic Senator Mark Warner tells Brett Bayer the U.S. military needs to increase the size and volume of strikes against Iran's rebel army, the Houthis in Yemen, focusing attacks on the Houthis' command and control. So the Houthis in Yemen are an Iranian-supported group. They have been attacking shipping in the Red Sea. These retaliatory strikes are not really supposed to be about the Houthis. They're supposed to be about the response to Iran-backed groups attacking U.S. forces and coalition forces in Iraq and Syria and Jordan. But it's interesting that this report is coming out that Mark Warner, a Democrat, says to Fox News that the U.S. needs to increase the size and volume of strikes against Iran's rebel army. He means the Houthis in Yemen, focusing on the Houthis' command and control. Because there have been a bunch of U.S. strikes on the Houthis, on like Houthi launch sites and Houthi drones and missiles. And the Houthis keep, that hasn't stopped Houthis from carrying out attacks on shipping in the Red Sea and launching missiles, for example, at U.S. ships. So that's interesting. Let me check for some more updates. NBC News says U.S. waited for favorable weather for airstrikes. Official says the U.S. was waiting on favorable weather to hit Iran-backed militia targets in Iraq and Syria in retaliation for a drone attack that killed 3 U.S. service members, officials said. This was designed around the weather when we had our best opportunity, said John Kirby. Good weather presented itself today. As a result, this took place. Also, U.S. strike in Iraq targeted weapons warehouse sites used by Iran-linked militia. Remember, sites in Iraq and Syria were both targeted, 7 facilities. U.S. airstrikes targeted a weapons warehouse in Iraq as well as 3 houses used by an Iran-aligned militia organization. An Iraqi security official told NBC News. The 3 houses in Anbar province in western Iraq were used by members of Kataib Hezbollah, an Iran-linked militia group that has been sanctioned by the U.S. government. The security official spoke to NBC News on the condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to comment to the news media. That's interesting. The U.S. had said that Kataib Hezbollah, that the drone attack in Jordan had something like that, had the hallmarks of Kataib Hezbollah. U.S. strikes targeted 3 houses in western Iraq used by members of Kataib Hezbollah. An Iraqi security official told NBC News. How about that? I'm going to post that. That sounds like it's targeting personnel. The U.S. didn't really, the CENTCOM announcement didn't mention targeting personnel. That sort of sounds like, but who knows what they were using the houses for? They could have been using the houses to store weapons or something like that. Maybe the houses, maybe there was nobody in the houses. That's interesting. Oh, here's a statement from the Iraqi army, NBC News. Now, I don't know, maybe the Iraqi army isn't that upset about it, but they need to do this for domestic purposes. I don't know. Iraqi army blasts U.S. strikes as violation of sovereignty. The Iraqi army condemned the U.S. airstrikes against Iran-backed militias in Iraqi border areas, calling the air assault a violation of Iraqi sovereignty and a threat that will drag Iraq and the region into unforeseen consequences. Yahya Rasul Abdullah, a spokesman for the commander-in-chief of the Iraqi Armed Forces, said these strikes come at a time when Iraq is striving to ensure the stability of the region. By the way, John Kirby is also saying this is just the first set of responses. BBC News says, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says the strikes are just the first set of responses. He says there has been no communications with Iran since the attack that killed our 3 soldiers in Jordan, he says, referring to the attack by an Iran-backed militia group on Sunday. He says the targets hit today were selected to avoid civilian casualties, and based on clear, irrefutable evidence, they were connected to attacks on U.S. personnel in the region. he wouldn't comment on any timings or locations of future operations. Hey, look at this from BBC. Analysis. Iraqi official says if you know you are a target, you simply disappear. This is from BBC. For days, American officials had been telegraphing that retaliatory strikes would come after Sunday's deadly attack on a base in Jordan. This marked an escalation of the violence in the Middle East, although U.S. authorities insisted they do not want to trigger a wider war in the region. American officials have suggested the U.S. response would be carried out over several days and hit Iranian personnel and interests in Iraq and Syria. As expected, infrastructure and weapons were the initial targets. With the element of surprise gone, top leaders would have certainly left their positions, which could have been part of the U.S. strategy to limit casualties and, as a result, reduce tensions. If you know you're a target, you simply disappear, an Iraqi official told me. It is not clear how or if Iran or the groups it supports will respond. Valor thinks it's a weak response. Well, again, there's supposedly more coming. The President, Secretary of Defense, and others have said there is more coming. Al Jazeera says, Iranian sources to Al Jazeera, the American bombing is an explicit and declared aggression against, I guess does that mean Syria and Iraq, and affects regional stability. Al Jazeera reports, Iranian sources told Al Jazeera there are no bases for the Iranian Revolutionary Guard or Quds Force in the areas that were subjected to American bombing in Syria. Shark Breaking News, which is a Arabic language news outlet, says the Syrian government media reports there is a complete power outage in the city of in the Deir ez-Zor region, which I assume includes the Deir ez-Zor city. There were some strikes there that were carried out as part of these strikes by the U.S. Let's see if I can find you that at all. Hey guys, look, I'm going to show you some reporting from Syrian State News. This isn't really that much. This is an article from Sana'a, Syrian State News Agency, that says Iraq confirms the American aggression against the city of Al-Qaim is a violation of its sovereignty and a serious threat to the region. We read this quote already, I think. I wonder if Sana'a has anything on Telegram. Let's see. Let me know what you're hearing. At Lookner on X. I just saw an update here. It says, hey guys, I have an update for you. Let me show you an update. Hang on. I am going to show you an update. What I need to do is do this. one moment here so I can actually show you this. One moment, and I'll show you the update. I just got to do something real quick here so I can show you. There. Okay, here we go. This is from Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera on Telegram. Look at the bottom there. Iraqi security sources say 3 soldiers and 2 civilians were killed and 15 injured by the American bombing of the headquarters of the Popular Mobilization Forces in Western Iraq. So Popular Mobilization Forces would be a collection of militia groups, some who are, from my understanding, support Iran. So that is unconfirmed, but it says Iraqi security sources say 3 soldiers and 2 civilians were killed and 15 injured by the American bombing of the headquarters of the Popular Mobilization Forces in Western Iraq. So there's unconfirmed reports of casualties from these strikes in both Syria and Iraq. That is from Al Jazeera. Jennifer Griffin with Fox reports, U.S. Navy was not involved in tonight's airstrikes in Iraq and Syria, U.S. official tells me. U.S. warplanes carried out the attacks using 2 B-1B bombers that flew without stopping from the U.S. and refueled in midair along the way. That's a long flight. That is a long flight. How about that, guys? Mansour thinks it's a 30-hour flight. I don't know how long the flight would be. But, I mean, roughly, I just did this, New York to Iraq. I mean, New York to Iraq is roughly 6,000 miles, according to Google. And B-1B bomber, how fast does that go? Several hundred miles an hour? Oh, B-1B bomber goes about 950 miles an hour. And that's the maximum speed. I don't know what speed it was traveling at, though. Maybe it wasn't going that fast. This says a B-1B in flight. I mean, if it's roughly 7,000 miles, if it was going 500 miles an hour, 6,000 miles would be 12 hours. That's one way. I don't know how fast it was going in its regular speed. B-1B Lancer. That's from the Air Force. B-1B Lancer bomber. Carrying the largest conventional payload of both guided and unguided weapons in the U.S. and the Air Force inventory. The multi-mission B-1 is the backbone of America's long-range bomber force. It can rapidly deliver massive quantities of precision and non-precision weapons against any adversary anywhere in the world at any time, says the Air Force. How about that? B-1B Lancer. Blah, 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 blah. Speed 900 plus miles per hour. Maybe, if it was 900 miles an hour, could go 6,300 miles in 7 hours. One of our viewers thinks that, Monty says 647 miles an hour cruise speed. Yeah, I don't know. So anyways, you can look it up on the Air Force if you want. Oh, there's some video. Oh, look, there's video from the Air Force of the B-1B bomber. Anyways, show me some more video. This is from the Air Force website. Truckee 1117 on Access Mach 122. So I'm showing you this footage of the B-1B bomber. Why? Because again, Jennifer Griffin said, U.S. Navy was not involved in tonight's airstrikes in Iraq and Syria, U.S. official tells me. U.S. warplanes carried out the attacks, including 2 B-1B bombers that flew without stopping from the U.S., refueled in midair along the way. Greg Pondell says the B-1 bomber is huge inside and out. I don't know where those took off from. Oh, hold on, guys. Look. Hold on a second. Oh, no, sorry. I thought I had an update, but that wasn't an update. But I do want to check the War Zone. Do they have anything out? The War Zone's a good military news site. Let's see what they have to say. The War Zone. Over 85 targets hit in U.S. retaliation strikes against Iran proxies, IRGC. Okay. The attacks are the first of many expected to take place. The strikes were carried out in part by U.S. Air Force B-1B bombers. Politico had that report too, as well as Fox News. Okay, the War Zone says U.S. forces have carried out previous attacks against Iranian proxies in Iraq and Syria, but nothing like on this scale. In anticipation of these attacks, Iran placed all armed forces on the highest alert, activated surface-to-air defense missile systems, and positioned ballistic missiles along the border with Iraq, according to 3 Iranians familiar with the planning, a current official and former one, the New York Times reported Thursday. As we reported on Thursday, the War Zone says, Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps personnel and Iranian proxies in Iraq and Syria began to scatter as news leaked about strikes in retaliation for the 3 Americans killed in the drone attack on Sunday. Anyways, that's from the War Zone. That's a good site, good military news site, the War Zone. Hey, thanks so much to Harper Ann for your support, and Donna Smith, and Janet Burnett, and John B., and Wilby, and Blue Ridge 28, Blue Ridger 28, and Dolores Wilson, thank you. Also, thanks to, Solicious on Twitch. Hey, that's very kind of you, Solicious. Thank you. Appreciate it. Says loss of any U.S. service personnel is tragic. Thank you, Retta Pretro, for subscribing on Twitch, and Bearded Savith for subscribing, and Teacher Diana for subscribing, and Tander62 for subscribing, and Aloha Charles for the bits. Jim Murphy says, did the B-1 bombers return to the U.S. or to a European base? That I don't know. Jennifer Griffin says some of the says at least 2 B-1 bombers flew all the way from the U.S. Thanks also, Austin, for your support as well. I just have a hard time thinking that these strikes themselves are going to just change what Iran is doing. Jason Brodsky, who's a Middle Eastern expert I follow, posted this analysis from Khasra Arabi, who's another Middle Eastern expert on the Middle East. And Khasra Arabi's take was, at present, U.S. strikes against IRGC positions in Iraq and Syria appear more symbolic than practically meaningful. Biden gave the IRGC advance notice, enough time to withdraw its commanders and clear out facilities. Tonight's strikes themselves unlikely to significantly alter IRGC calculus, but we'll have to see what other strikes happen. There's supposed to be more. Checking some messages here. Thanks also to Gulf State Heating and Air. I very much appreciate that. Let's see. Here's a statement from Republican Senator Ted Budd. Republican Senator Ted Budd, U.S. Senator, says, the retaliatory strikes against Iranian proxy targets are certainly warranted, but the fact they were delayed and telegraphed makes them less likely to deter Iran and their proxies from attacks on U.S. service members. That's his comment. I haven't seen an official statement from Iran yet. Trying to find you some new updates here. This is from The Telegraph. They say senior Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps figures would have been pulled out before attacks, a former senior national security official told CNN. Senior Iran Revolutionary Guards figures would have been pulled out of Syria and Iraq in anticipation of the strikes Beth Sainer, a former senior national security official, has told CNN. Also, as we mentioned before, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is a group in the UK-based group which reports on Syria, they claimed that 18 militia members have been killed in these attacks. I don't know if that's true. 18 soldiers were killed, they say. 18 militia members. I'm not sure if that's true. That's what they said. Oh, Rosina Sabor of the Telegraph says, these strikes were carried out by manned and unmanned aircraft, including long-range bombers flown from the United States, including B-1 bombers. That's interesting to know because you think about it and you assume it's all planes, right? But some of the strikes were fired by drones. Also, you can see from the Telegraph, more strikes are expected in the coming days, expanding the range of targets. Our viewer MNP thinks it's not a very strong response. Thank you so much to Denise for your support. Really appreciate it, Denise. I wonder if, is this going to be... So far we've had, these strikes took like a half hour, and it was kind of like a, it was like a burst of strikes. Is that the way it's going to be? Like tomorrow, is there going to be one other burst, and then the next day after one other burst? Or is it going to be like targets of opportunity, where you hear about a strike in an hour and certain strikes in 5 hours? Is there going to be a big announcement every time there's strikes or not? That I can't tell you. Thanks to Sandy's app for the, thanks Sandy for the Facebook stars. John Ruiz thinks it's a super weak response. Manu Raju with CNN reports, Hill leaders, including Schumer and others, were notified ahead of airstrikes per sources. Speaker Johnson, Republican, criticizes Biden administration. That's not surprising. He said, unfortunately, the administration waited for a week and telegraphed to the world, including to Iran, the nature of our response. The public hand-wringing and excessive signaling undercuts our ability to put a decisive end to the barrage of attacks endured over the past few months. So I think in the Biden administration, they probably wanted to, again, they're trying to escalate as little as possible. And they want to deter without creating a wider conflict. Senate Armed Services Chairman Jack Reed, who I assume is a Democrat because he's an Armed Services Chairman, Jack Reed is a Democrat. He said this was a strong proportional response. In fact, the 85 targets struck tonight mark a greater number than the prior administration. That's according to Manu Raju of CNN. Karine Amos thinks it was weak. Too much time went by. Write to me on X at look. Let me know what you're hearing or what you think. Foreign policy. FP has an article about this. U.S. launches retaliatory strikes on Iran-linked targets in Iraq, Syria. Now, they said here, there have been no new attacks on U.S. troops in the Middle East since the Iranian-backed Kataib Hezbollah militant group, which is part of the Islamic Resistance in Iraq group, announced on Wednesday it was suspending operations against U.S. forces. Iranian proxies have launched more than 160 assaults on U.S. troops since last October. So it'll be interesting to see if and when the next attempted attack on U.S. forces happens. There have been so many of them, but none since Wednesday. FP also reports Washington's retaliatory attack follows Iranian semi-official state media reporting that an Israeli strike killed an IRGC military advisor and 2 other members near Syria's capital Damascus on Friday. Israel said it does not comment on foreign news allegations, but Syria's state news agency reported the strikes launched from Israel's Golan Heights region only caused material damage, not any casualties. It is 3:40 Iran time and 3:40 a.m. and it's 3:10 a.m. Iraq and Syria time. I mean, people are saying, have you heard anything official statement from Iran? No, but maybe we'll get like some official statement from Iran when it's daylight there or something. I have no idea. No, Jerry says, what time is the president speaking? The president's not supposed to speak. I've heard no reporting that the president is speaking. Christopher Stokeham thinks some of the planes came from a base in the UK. I don't know if that's true. Maybe they did, I'm not sure. New York Times says John Kirby with the National Security Council said all the facilities targeted were carefully chosen to send a message that the attacks on American bases need to stop. The signal is to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and these proxy groups. The attacks have to stop, he said. Oh, and we've seen videos showing what appear to be secondary explosions where a target gets hit and then there's like rockets or ammunition blowing up at that site. So look at this right here. Lieutenant General Douglas A. Sims, Director of the Joint Staff, said, Doug A. Sims II, Director of the Joint Staff, said the Pentagon felt confident the military did exactly what they meant to hit. Secondary explosions showed the Air Force planes hit the ammunition points they were targeting, he said. The targets included facilities holding ammunition and munitions that had been used against American bases in the region. So that's the U.S. saying that they did hit some targets, that had ammunition, and there were secondary explosions. And look, we've seen them. Just to show you a couple of these videos again, we saw videos seeming to show secondary explosions. Kazi Musica says this is a warm-up. Well, there are going to be more strikes, according to the president. Remember, Intel Crab showed this video. Here's it. From just outside Al-Qaim, Iraq. He talks about secondary explosions. Those things going up, they're not like anti-aircraft fire. They're things that are exploding and going up from the site that's been hit. And here is, Aurora Intel posted some of those too. Airstrikes, no, where was this one? This is additional footage possibly from the same location posted by Aurora Intel. And Aurora Intel posted this one, which is purportedly from, reportedly the targeting of Al-Sika neighborhood area in Al-Qaim, Iraq.
يا ستار يمكن صواريخ مشاجب والله لا يقعد علينا والله جاي تطاير يا ستار الله يستر الله يستر الله يستر بردا وسلاما ان شاء الله.
Then I'll show you one more from Aurora Intel. Those accounts both works following Aurora Intel and Intel Crab. They say that this is apparently airstrikes in Syria, Abu Kamal, Syria, across the border from Al-Qaim, Iraq. Are these all strikes? Are some of these secondary explosions? That I don't know. Mark Raftis says that the strike's been effective. Well, we're not going to know the strikes have been effective until we see if Iran-backed groups stop carrying out attacks on U.S. and coalition forces. Only then will we know whether it's been effective. But it's interesting. I do not know. We could hear reports of more strikes in 5 minutes. We might not hear about more strikes for 2 days. Don't know when it's going to happen. Ranger Smith thinks they'll be right back at it tomorrow. I'm checking for some more updates on my end. I want to show you this post from Tammuz Intel. They cover Iraq stuff. It's this account that covers Iraq stuff. I and a bunch of people I follow it. I can't verify this. They said, according to my sources, all PMF and Iran-backed proxies, headquarters and positions were cleared days ago. All Iran-backed senior commanders are in their hideouts, and some of them are currently in civilian neighborhoods in Baghdad. A number of them left Iraq already. So I would not be surprised. I mean, Iran and Iran-backed militias knew these strikes were coming for days. I'm checking for some more updates here. Here's a quote in the Wall Street Journal article about this. They said, the delay in launching U.S. strikes likely means Tehran had time to move personnel out of harm's way, said Mick Mulroy, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense. Some will say the U.S. missed an opportunity to really inflict consequences on Iran, Mulroy said. We may, however, be able to reduce these Iranian proxies' ability to attack our forces by striking these supply lines, storage facilities, and launch sites. Maybe they'll stop, maybe they'll be able to hinder these forces being able to get weapons where they are. I don't know. We saw something about this being logistics concentrated anyway. Where is that from before? Here. Jeff Selden of VOA News reported a U.S. official tells VOA News the slew of strikes in Iraq and Syria were aimed at causing a major disruption in logistics. Logistics is like shipping, getting stuff from place to place, supplies. A U.S. official tells VOA News the slew of strikes in Iraq and Syria were aimed at causing a major disruption of logistics for Iran's IRGC and its militias. The targets are critical to their supply chain, per the official, adding the strikes were not for personnel purposes. We're not targeting personnel. Will these really impact the ability, say, to get weaponry to launch attacks out to these militia groups? I can't tell you. Thank you to Bebop and Rocksteady for your support. Bebop and Rocksteady says, wish our troops had that kind of warning. Shameful. Devil Doc thinks both logistics and personnel should be targeted. Moose's Backyard writes in and says, it's funny how many of those complaining about the weakness of the response would be the same ones complaining about undesired economic, social consequences of a stronger retaliation. It's difficult when people just don't understand how tricky it is to find the balance. So, I mean, thank you, Moose's Backyard, for writing in. I appreciate it. Something to keep in mind is if there is like some kind of regional war in the Middle East, that could have huge negative consequences. I mean, aside from, for example, American soldiers getting killed and injured, and other countries' soldiers getting killed and injured, you also have potentially huge economic costs, the cost of conducting military operations. Also, I've seen multiple articles that suggest that if there was conflict in the Middle East involving Iran, Iran might say block off the Strait of Hormuz such that oil shipments could not get out of the Persian Gulf. And you could imagine if something like that happened, or if there was just hostilities in that region, oil prices could skyrocket, gas prices could skyrocket, inflation could go way up. So a lot of very bad things could come from having some kind of increased fighting in the Middle East. It's worth keeping in mind as you try to figure out what the best thing is to do here. Walter Beasley thinks they will not mess with Iran. Dre Bab sent me this. Thanks, Dre. Dre said, Heather Cagle reports with Punchbowl News. She says President Biden will address House Democrats at their retreat on Thursday. He will, now, that's still a ways away, though. That's not that, because today's Friday. So, I've heard nothing about President Biden speaking on this. You know, some viewers have asked about him speaking on this. He made a statement, but is it? You know, I don't know if it's big enough for for Biden to speak on it. I mean, it's important, obviously, because it's U.S. military strikes from another country. Are they enormous strikes? Doesn't look like he's speaking on it yet. Murph says, do you think the B-1 bombers traveled all the way and then returned to the U.S., or do you think they landed on a military base station in the area? I have no idea. That's out of my wheelhouse. Last Stand thinks this symbolic retaliation doesn't make a dent in IRGC objectives. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars, Last Stand thinks. Last Stand says it did meet political objectives, though. Look at crude prices. So Last Stand thinks it's about crude oil prices. I mean, they haven't really done much since this is crude oil futures today. I mean, the strikes happened around 4 p.m. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. News of these strikes had just kind of come out. I guess stop trading at 5 p.m. Because the news about the strikes really came out around after. I mean, the strikes were carried out around 4 p.m. So not much of this news had come out. I think we went on there around 4 p.m. There were some reports around 4 p.m. this was going on. But, I mean, by 5 p.m. they hadn't done that much. Who knows? I mean, look, I wouldn't anticipate them doing that much from today, because I think this was probably baked in. I think what happened today, probably most people who follow this and are trading oil, I would think would have expected something like what happened today. There was no big surprises today from this first round of strikes. So I would think basically these first round of strikes were priced into the price of oil and stocks and other things. So, you know, I think a bigger issue would be if something happened with these strikes that was very different than was anticipated. You know, I think a strike directly on Iran would be certainly something more surprising, a strike on an Iranian ship even. But for right now, I mean, I think this is, if you had asked most people before what they thought the strikes might look like, I think what happened today so far is kind of what a lot of people would say. Hey, thanks so much to John McKeon from the UK. Thanks so much, John, for your support of the channel. Really appreciate that. All right, let's see if we can find any other updates for you. By the way, just so you know, in the future, if there's more strikes or more big updates, we're going to be doing more live streams on this as things develop, even if it's like the middle of the night or whenever stuff happens. So make sure you subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news. And sign up for our notifications. We have a special notification system that we've created. Works really well. You sign up, it's free, and then you get sent a notification right before we go live. I don't know when we're going live. I didn't know we were going to be on live at 4 p.m. this afternoon, whenever we went on the air, because who knows when this stuff is going to happen. So sign up for our notifications. It's free. It's done through Discord. The mods can post that notifications link in the chat, and you can also find the link to the notifications in the YouTube and Facebook description for this broadcast. But sign up for that and subscribe and follow, so you can watch again as we keep covering this and cover further developments. I don't know what's going to happen. Let me see something. Hang on a moment. Checking for some other updates. Al God TV, which is an Arabic language news outlet. Now, I haven't heard any American outlets post this. Al God TV says, U.S. military official says none of our fighter jets were damaged by these strikes. I haven't heard about any kind of damage to U.S. forces of any kind. Here's some analysis. I follow this person, Michael Knights, for Iraq stuff, who is an Iraq analyst. And he reposted this person, Gabriel Noronha, who is a former State Department advisor on Iran and is a fellow at the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. So what he thinks, he says, we killed Soleimani and stopped the Iranian escalation in January 2020 with a total of 3 Hellfire missiles. He says quantity does not equal quality. He thinks we are blowing up a whole lot of buildings that emptied way before midnight. We should be hitting very high value targets and calling it a day. That's what he thinks. I mean, there's a lot of debate going on right now about whether these strikes are strong enough, whether they will really deter Iran. Our viewer Michael Gagnon is skeptical, that doesn't think that these strikes will be deterring. But we not know. Maybe there won't be any attacks on U.S. troops for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks from now they pick up again. Thanks to Greg Pondell for your support. I really appreciate it, Greg. By the way, I have, hold on a second here. Give me one moment here. I can show you something here. I'll show you something here. Here's that. Oh, by the way, shout out to, I think that was my. Thanks again to our mods, by the way. Just want to shout them out again. They are so awesome, and they are why we can have chat rooms open. Ruth Krafasi is moderating over there on YouTube. Hold on one moment. By the way, in case you haven't seen it, here's the CENTCOM statement about the strikes. Ruth Krafasi is moderating. BZ, thank you. Really appreciate it. Queenful, RJ. Cynthia Moon moderating. Linda Belk and Larry over there on X. On Twitch, we have moderating right now. Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, McRiches, Nightbot, Sarah, Sharon C54, Surly Dev, Papa Bear. And on Facebook, K. Larry Body, Margaret Riley, Ronald Egnor, Summer Rosenberger. Let's see. Chloe Lee, Margaret Riley. Thanks to all the mods. And thanks to Lacey Kubik for the Facebook stars. Thank you. You can see the U.S. says this happened at 4 p.m. They conducted airstrikes on Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force and affiliated militia groups. U.S. military forces struck more than 85 targets at 7 sites. The U.S. has also said at 7 facilities, with numerous aircraft to include long-range bombers flown from the United States. The airstrikes employed more than 125 precision munitions. The facilities that were struck included command and control operations centers, intelligence centers, rockets and missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicle storages, and logistics and munitions supply chains facilities of militia groups and their IRGC sponsors who facilitated attacks against U.S. and coalition forces. Hey, you know what I can show you? This is like the standard, hey, news is happening. Let's look at a live shot of the White House. There is a live shot of the White House via Reuters. You can see it's live. It's the White House. I don't know what's going on there right now. I don't even know if the president is home. I don't even know if he's there. But that is the White House, a live shot for your viewing. In case you were wondering what was happening there. I haven't seen any other kind of live videos that would be relevant at all to this. No one's speaking or anything. No live video from the area. Alex S. thinks Iran has to respond in some form, especially if some of their troops were killed. Hopefully, they will be unable to do so via their now crippled proxies. Escalation is squarely in their hands. Well, Alex S., there's going to be more U.S. strikes, too. That's another thing you can remember. Yeah, I haven't seen a official comment from Iran. Again, it is the middle of the night there. It's 4 a.m. Iran time. And so, when will the next strikes be? I have no idea. And will there be pinprick strikes, or are we going to see a big batch of strikes coming? Your guess is as good as mine. Excuse me. Kind of seeing the same updates here, trying to get you something new if I can find anything for you. Yes, the bombing took about a half an hour, and it happened around 4 p.m. Eastern time. It is now 7:40 p.m. Eastern time. Here's some analysis from BBC. Did the U.S. wait too long to hit back? From Bernd de Busman Jr. Several military experts have told me that by delaying the strikes, the U.S. risked diminishing their impact and not creating the desired deterrent on Iran-backed militias operating in the region. The approach raises the question of whether this will restore any deterrence, if it ever existed, said Brian Katulis, a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute, who previously worked with the National Security Council. It potentially takes the force out of what they're trying to do, if in fact they are trying to restore deterrence and keep American troops in the region safe. Another expert, Arabian Gulf States Institute of Washington fellow Hussein Ibish, said the delay appeared to be the U.S. signaling what they're not going to do, which is strike inside Iran. If they did strike in Iran, the Republican standard bearers like Donald Trump would denounce Biden for being a warmonger, he said. It's a political trap. Everybody gets that, so they're not going to fall into that trap. I do think I do think that certainly some political considerations are in play here because there's an election coming up in November for Biden. Our viewer Kyle Stiles says we probably have like 20 satellites over Iran we use this time to monitor resources and locations. Thanks so much, Bebop and Rock Steady. Says doesn't seem like a real deterrent. I feel a louder and faster response would have fit the bill, even if it's the same targets. Just not impressive at all thus far. Thanks, Bebop and Rock Steady. I appreciate that. And again, look, we have been told again and again by President Biden, Secretary of Defense Austin, John Kirby of National Security Council. They have said repeatedly This is going to be multi-stage. The first thing you see is not going to be the last thing. There's more coming. So let's, I'm very interested in seeing, is there going to be anything really different about the strikes to come? After this. Zach says it's just talk so far. Valor says, also curious to see Iran's response. Yeah, I have not seen any official statement from Iran. Also, will these Iranian-backed groups continue these attacks? A few more comments here. Now, another thing is there going to be some sort of ceasefire in Israel? Remember, the Houthis and these Islamic and these Iranian-backed militia groups, they have been carrying out these attacks since October to, protest what's going on, Israel's war in Gaza against Hamas, and U.S. support for Israel in that war in Gaza. So if, say, in a week, there's some ceasefire that's agreed to, where the fighting stops in Gaza, you might possibly see the attacks by these Iran-backed groups stop, but it might not have anything to do with these airstrikes. It might just be because the reason for the attacks, the given reason, the fighting in Gaza may stop. Now, I don't know if there is going to be a ceasefire. There's been negotiations going on. For example, Hamas and Israel closer to ceasefire deal amid warning over Gaza children. The Guardian says, Israel and Hamas appear to be inching closer to a deal for a ceasefire and a release of some of the hostages. Qatar indicated that Hamas had given initial support for a deal after weeks of delicate and secretive negotiations. However, Hamas has not officially replied to the latest offer. A Qatari official said to Reuters, there's no deal yet, and although Hamas has received the proposal positively, Qatar was waiting for their response. So we don't know, but there's been these negotiations going on. Thanks to Low-Key 1988. I appreciate that. And then if there is no ceasefire and the fighting continues in Gaza, I don't know that it's going to take a lot for there to be no more attacks, because that situation is still going on in Gaza, which is inspiring the given reason for these attacks by the Iranian-backed groups. Liz says, I think there is way too much tension in the area due to Israel-Gaza situation. Why would we want to escalate unless we absolutely had to? Joe Hart says, I'm surprised we haven't heard specific reports about the damage or casualties. It's been 3.5 hours. I've shown you some reports from a couple of outlets that report on what's going on in Syria, but it's hard. They're not located in Syria, so I don't have anything firm to tell you. It can be hard to get firm information out of places like Syria and Iraq. And I don't think the U.S. government's going to say, hey, look, here's all these satellite shots. So I think a big reason. I think if there were strikes in a different country, you might hear stuff a lot faster. But, there's also an interest for the places that were hit, might not want to get out there what kind of damage they sustained. Oh, I guess one of our viewers mentioned this. So there's a report of new strikes in Yemen. Faytux News posted about it. I'll show you on Telegram, thanks to World War II. So Faytux News saw this on Telegram. Go to Telegram, I'll show you. It says the Al Masirah news agency run by Houthis themselves posted this. I'll show you what they posted. Now, this would not be part of the response. The strikes on the Houthis are different than the strikes in Iraq and Syria, because the Iraq and Syria ones are intended to deter and respond to U.S. Attacks on U.S. and coalition troops. The strikes on the Houthis in Syria are meant to stop and deter and prevent Houthis from attacking shipping in the Red Sea, attacking ships in the open. But anyways, that being said, you can see here, Al Masirah says, our correspondent in Sana'a said the American-British aggression launched 3 raids on the city, Saddam. So there may be more strikes going on in Yemen right now. Again, that would not be part of the retaliatory response. That's a different. And those have been going on for weeks. Thanks for letting me know. Thanks to Faytux posting. Thanks so much to Emma for the gift memberships. Thanks, Emma. And John Donovan for the gift for creating a member. Thanks for that. And Marie, thanks for your support. Marie says, Zoom Earth with indication of fires on the striking points? I haven't seen anything about that. I know there's like places you can go to like find. I might not mess around with that because I'm not really. I know you can use like certain sites to find like satellite indications of fire. Now, I don't know if any of the places that were hit are on fire in a way that are actually big enough still to show up on any of these satellite sites. So if I went to these sites, I really wouldn't know what I'm doing, and I very likely could give you false information. It's an interesting thought. What I will say is I see there are people I follow who are much more fluent and expert at using that stuff than I am. And if they spot something on one of these sites where they say, wow, it looks like that's a big fire that was caused by an airstrike that's still burning, I will certainly pass that along to you. So thanks for the suggestion, Marie. I just don't want to start doing stuff myself when I don't know what I'm doing. Just giving you that information, which is probably what I started trying to do that. Thanks, Marie. I haven't seen any. I mean, there's reporting that shows, this looks like a strike on some sort of weapons facility several hours ago with secondary explosions. I haven't seen reporting about some massive fire. Not that it couldn't be happening, but I just haven't seen reporting saying that it's happening. But again, a lot of people are messaging me about this, guys. And again, this is not part of the retaliation strikes. This is a different thing. What Faytux is posting about, strikes in Yemen, those have been going on. The strikes against the Houthis are different than the retaliatory strikes in Iraq and Syria. That's not more retaliation right there. That's a different thing. So I think the next big development in this, the next big development will be when the U.S., I assume the next big development here in this whole thing we've been covering is when the U.S. Carries out more strikes. That's my guess. And I don't know when that's going to be. Yeah, Rex says that's just your daily bombings. No big deal. I mean, it's important, but it's not part of this whole thing. I might give it a few minutes just to see if we have any more new developments, but we're certainly going to be doing more coverage of this in the future. And I just don't know when the next big developments will be. Our viewer Paul Walker thinks that the second strike will be in the next 24 to 48 hours once they have intelligence where the hideouts are located. Plus, the first strike will test Iran's response. If they don't respond, pretty much give the USA green light to strike more targets. So, a couple things here. Thanks, Paul. I don't know if any kind of observations after the first strikes, are they going to affect the second strikes? Are they waiting to see if people, move from the areas of places that were struck or not, or if they can see more stuff, or I don't know. I just don't know if the targeting for the second strike will depend on the result of the first strike. Also, look, a thought I had, maybe the U.S. wants to wait a couple days and see if there's still no more attacks on its troops. Maybe if the U.S. waits a day or two and there's no more attacks, they'll be like, well, we'll do kind of like lower second batch of strikes. Or even, I mean, I know they've said there'd be more, so I think at this point they have to do more because they've said they'll do more. But, yeah, I don't know how much it's like, yes, we have our second batch of strikes prepared, we're definitely going to do them. Or, yeah, we have a general idea what we want to do, but we want to do some observation and see. Also, maybe if a target presents itself, they'll just strike it. So I don't have a good sense of how set in stone the second batch of strikes is and whether it's going to be one batch or different things over time and all that. And whether it all depends on how Iran responds. No official response from Iran. It's 4:27 a.m. there, by the way. 3:57 in Iraq and Syria. CG Doc thinks it's been underwhelming so far. All right, here's what I think we're going to do. Is I think we're going to be covering this more when more. I know we're going to be covering it more when more happens. I don't really have more to tell you right at the moment right now. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to wrap up this live stream. I'm going to eat. I'm going to run and eat because I haven't eaten. And then if there's big developments, I'll just come right back on the air. Even while I'm eating, if there's big developments, I'll come right back on the air. So there may be stuff that happens in a couple hours or something like that. But for right now, I don't really have more to tell you on what's happened right now. So subscribe and follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. I'm sure we'll be doing more coverage about this, more live streams. Subscribe and follow. Make sure you turn your notifications on. Like if you're watching on YouTube, for example, and you subscribe over there, there's like this bell you want to press. I know it's a little confusing. See, here's like the YouTube page right there. Click on the bell and click all notifications. So whatever platform you're watching on, subscribe, follow, turn notifications on. And also, I'll post on my X account. If I hear stuff while I'm off the air, while I'm eating, that doesn't want a live stream, I'll post it over there on X, at Lookner on X. Follow me there, at Lookner on X, for breaking news. And Agenda Free TV on X, I post there before we go live. You can follow over there at Agenda Free TV. But again, I do anticipate doing more coverage, so I'll just be keeping an eye on what's going on. I just honestly don't. There could be strikes in 5 minutes. There could be strikes in 48 hours. What can I say? So I'll be keeping an eye on it. And I really appreciate you tuning in today, and also all of your comments and writing all your messages to me and sending me updates, letting me read your comments and sending in updates to let me know what you're hearing about what's going on. So thanks for your help with the coverage and for tuning in. We will have more coming. Huge thanks to our moderators. They are awesome. The reason that we can have chat rooms, I know a lot of people are doing our chat rooms, which is great. The only reason we can have them is we have moderators here to keep everything under control, civil and respectful, and they are awesome, an essential part of the channel. So huge thanks to them. For example, people like Ruth Krafasi over there on YouTube, RJ, BZ. We've had a bunch of moderators in and out. Sarah55, Cynthia Moon. Huge thanks to all of our mods over there on Twitch. People like Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, David Green, McBritches, Papa Bear, and Surly Dip. Huge thanks. And thanks to all of our Twitch moderators. And Facebook, Paul Anderson, Kay Lowry Body, Christina Neal, Summer Rosenberg. Who else over there on Facebook? Valerie Gale Griffin. All of our Facebook mods. And thanks to Billy Joe Drage for the Facebook stars. Thanks, Billy Joe. Margaret Riley moderating, thank you. And Linda Belk and Larry, you moderate for us on X. Thanks so much. Thanks a ton to all of our moderators. Thank you. And thanks to everybody who donated too. Your support is what allows this channel to exist and to be available around the clock, to come on the air and bring you breaking news whenever it happens. So can't thank you enough for your support. If you ever want to donate, you go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But huge thanks. And hopefully I got everyone with thank yous. Let's see here. Over there on Twitch, I owe a thank you to Flaps15 for subscribing. Thank you. Let's see. Again, I'll keep an eye on it. We very well might be coming back on the air tonight. If more happens, we'll come on the air. Let's see. Subscribe, follow. Hey, turn on. Sorry, if I don't know when we're going live the vast majority of the time. So if you want a great way to know when we're going live is to sign up for our own notification system. Yep, we created a notification system. It works great. It's really reliable. You sign up, it's free, and you get sent a notification right before we're going live. It's done through Discord. So sign up and turn on the Discord notifications. The mods will post that notifications link in the chat. You can also find it on the YouTube and Facebook descriptions for this broadcast. If you want, you can do what I do, which is I have the Discord app on my phone. And because I do that, I get notifications on my phone when we're going live, which I don't really need because I know we're going live, but I like to see them anyway. But they work really well. Also, thanks to our Discord mods, huge thanks to you. And if you, same link as the notifications, you can also check out our Discord chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not on here. A lot of our viewers like doing the Discord chat. Let's see here. And I'll just mention this real quick. For when it's not such a busy news time, it's too busy with the news right now. But when it's not a busy news day, sometimes I do some live streaming on my personal channel. That's called Lookner on YouTube and Look Nerd on Twitch. It's pretty chill over there. We don't really do the news thing over there. It's just kind of chill. So in case you're interested in some non-news live streams, Lookner on YouTube, Look Nerd on Twitch. I want to shout out our subscribers over there on Facebook who support the channel. Oh, Summer Rosenberger was moderating too. Thank you if I didn't say that before. Our subscribers over there on Facebook, like Janet Erica Battaglieri, Kay Lowry Body, Ronald Egnor. Ronald was moderating too. Thank you, Ronald. Lacey Carter, Billy Joe Drage, Duster Singer, Margaret Riley, Lou Green, Leanne Ticknor, Mike Wise, and all of our other subscribers on Facebook. Thank Eve Richards, too. Thanks for subscribing over there. And our subscribers over there on Twitch, like Shaggy and Wall Street and Big Ball of Yarn, Big Boss Now, and let's see, Haunted Wind. Thanks for subscribing. And all of our subscribers over there on Twitch. And also our YouTube members. Huge shout out to our YouTube members. Somebody asked, if you're looking for a wrap up in general, if you missed some of the stream, go to my X account. I'm going to post the link to this. But I've been posting throughout. I have all these posts about what's been happening and videos and links and stuff. So if you missed some of the stream, I mean, you can watch the stream again if you want. But also if you want like a quick rundown, I would suggest going to my X account, and I'll post the web link to it right there. And you can kind of go down and check out some of the different things we talked about today. Thanks to Ronald Kane for the gift memberships. I really appreciate that, Ronald Kane. And thanks for being a member. Thanks to all of our members. Just Me, thanks for your support as well. Thank you so much, Just Me, over there on YouTube. And thanks to all of our YouTube members like M, John Donahue, Karen Belial, Janet Burnett, Donna Smith, John B, Just Me, Dolores Wilson, Ruth Grafasi, DeShark, Mark Barnes, Marissa Pugliese, bunch of members, thank you. Thanks some more. Christy 1432, Elka Booth, Skylark, Mr. Hammond, Doug Cahill, Kerry Poteet, Leslie Lamana, Abdul Karim Saleh, Connor Murphy, Wendy Lance, Xylee 42, thank you. Peter Shappy, thanks for being a member. Fish with Aquaphobia, Tara Oning, Jill Hart, Cherry Cola. Some more members. Supple Petals, and Jojo Ryder, Mike E, Pan Spray, G-Capped G1, Tara 2, 185. Who else we got there? Francis Dales, Jill LeBlanc, Sinon Country Roads, Dr. McRib, thanks for being members. Lou Ann, Tommy Nunez, Melissa McNeely, Turn It Off, Turned Off, Pocket Aces, Truth, WSYF, Blue Ridger 28, Cam Aiken. Thanks to all our members. Zach, Rolos 5, Chihuahua Verde, Jewish Wonder, Pan Spray, Sea Frog. Thank you, members. And all of our other members. Very much appreciated. Cherry Cola as well. Daniel Israel, Roger, thanks for watching. Cody, Raven Cat, Wendy Lance, and all of our other viewers and chatters. All right, let me do a last check. Koja connection as well. Let me do a last check, make sure I'm not missing anything big. But again, if there's big stuff happening tonight, I'll come back on the air. I'll be watching. I'll be looking for updates. I'll post on my X account, and we will do more coverage as things develop. I think that's all I got for you right now. All right, guys, that is it for now. We've been covering the start of the U.S. retaliatory strikes that happened in Iraq and Syria. These are targeted these are in response to attacks on U.S. and coalition troops in the Middle East, including that attack on Sunday, that drone attack on Jordan, which killed 3 U.S. troops. And the U.S. is doing this to try to punish Iran and Iran-backed militants for doing this and to deter them from doing it again. Will the deterrence work? I don't know. What are the further strikes going to be? There's going to be more, says the President, Secretary of Defense, there's going to be more U.S. strikes. When will they happen? What are they going to tell? I don't know. So we'll cover you more. We'll cover it more, and again, if there's big developments, that I will come back on the air. So that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching our live coverage, and we will see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.
sorry about that. Yeah, I had to take a nap. I had to let it run. Well, tonight, going to be some interesting things about the U.S. airstrikes. I think he's taking a break. I think he's been off almost 3 hours. Well, let me go ahead and make sure I'm doing everything right. Okay, so that is done. We'll go ahead and do this. Yeah, he included, okay. All right, here we go. Hey, thank you for hanging out for 3 hours with me and my other guy, Fred. It's going to be an interesting weekend. And it's not over yet, so they're going to have a couple more strikes. He might be coming back on, he might not. I'll be coming on at 9 o'clock Central Time. I want to thank everybody for watching. Appreciate it. I like to thank, Jill, a guy. Agenda free. Thank you for all the coverage, all that. Appreciate you doing that. So I'm gonna get it out of here. Go watch Friday Night SmackDown. Don't forget 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock Central. Bye.